This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Perfect way to start a safari is with a plethora of animals, and as you can see, there's wildebeest and impalas and even a few baboons that are shouting behind us, and hopefully that means that we're going to find some sign of a spotty predator in the area. Should be a good morning. The sun is up, there's no clouds. It's the perfect conditions for this, your very own live safari. Everybody, and welcome to Zuma Private Game Reserve. As you can see, we're sitting on quarantine at the moment, and there's a very good reason for that. Not only is there lots of cute little baby animals in the form of impala lambs and wildebeest calves, but we've been listening to alarm calls, and we're trying to just figure out in which direction we need to be heading, because the baboons are shouting, and unfortunately baboons have eyesight that can stretch a long way, so it can be a little bit tricky. Anyway, my name is Tristan. On camera I have got Theo. Go. There's Theo's thumb. And it is a very good morning to all of you. Hopefully you are going to enjoy the morning safari. I'm sure there's lots of promise across South Africa. Remember that we are coming to you live, and that means that we want to hear from you. And so you can ask questions, you can give us comments. It's always good when you do, because, well, that sparks conversation, helps us, and it helps you, and we all learn together, which is a wonderful thing. And you can do so on hashtag Wild Earth. And that is where you can basically talk to us, which is a good thing. Also remember that you can join the Wild Earth Explorers program. If you want more information on that, you can go to wildearth.tv/explorers. That will allow you to actually join us on the 13th of December for a Explorers Fireside chat, where we will be covering highlights from 2020, essentially, all of our favorite sightings, and pretty much what we think of 2020 in terms of animal movements and what's been happening. So should be a good chat, and promises a lot. I was hoping that we would come to this wildebeest herd and potentially see another little one being born. I was checking all the females, but there's only 2 left that are heavily pregnant. And so we're no sign of them giving birth today, but we'll kind of keep checking as we go. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Kyle down in the drier parts of South Africa.
Okay, so behind that camel thorn, there is a giraffe. Shall I move forward for us, Theon? Can you see his legs? He hasn't done his makeup this morning. He's decided he wants to hide behind the camel thorn. Let's just move slightly forward to say good morning. Yes, good morning. Good morning. My name is Kyle. Behind camera is Owen. Thank you very much for joining us here on Twala Kalahari. And a very warm welcome, Dumela. And good morning, Mr. Giraffe. It's the same individual that we were looking at yesterday afternoon, a very early period of our drive. You could see the scarring on his left-hand shoulder. So you can see from his behavior that he's enjoying this area quite a lot. Yes, good morning, Mr. Giraffe. Amazing, look at that. That long face, those long eyelashes. You can see nice and clearly now those bald ossicones from the wear and tear from male and male conflict. You can also see that big protruding knob in between his eyes. That's just an excess buildup of calcium also behind his ears. Obviously using those heads as clubs, so having an extra little bit of calcium there would help that animal. guinea fowl in the distance. What a fantastic morning. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. We are meandering slowly. We're about 300 meters north of camp now, and we're just going to be doing a small loop just to see what tracks have come in and out of this area. We heard spotted hyena fairly early this morning when we were busy doing checks. So we're going to see maybe if we can lock down them. They are fairly shy in comparison to other places, and that's because they're brand new. They've just been introduced, so they're still going through the period or the phase getting used to our presence. And what an amazing animal to see if we can see it. But then, open intentions, open heart, just allow Mother Nature to determine what we see. She knows best. Busy nibbling on the little blackthorn. I mean, for the folks that have been joining us for the past couple of weeks, we've been looking at how tiny those leaves are, and look how nimble that animal. Barbara, good morning. What a fantastic comment from you. What a majestic animal it truly is. And if you look at the true terminology of where giraffe stems from, its true terminology actually translates to one which moves gracefully. So gracefully and beautiful, everything that a giraffe does is just so elegant. Even when it runs, it looks a bit funny at times, but still elegant in its own right. I mean, that animal has got serious ability right there, nibbling on just those tiny little paddle-shaped leaves. Oh, I think he saw the guinea fowl that's running on his right-hand side. Freeze. So, at his position now, folks, I want you to look at his ear. It's the only spot that you won't find true patterning on a giraffe, and that's behind the ears. Look how wide that ear is, in contrast with his neck that goes down to the right and then his face on the left. And those white ears are used as beacons during the night time. Obviously light colors reflecting quite a lot of light that is generated from stars or from the moon. So everybody can almost pinpoint where everybody else is, that he's definitely focusing on those guinea fowl. And like I've mentioned, they are curious by nature. Why the long face, giraffe? Wow. I don't know how one could get tired of looking at a giraffe. But we're going to enjoy him for a few minutes, but we're going to send you over quickly to Trishala.
Good afternoon. Oh, good morning, everyone. I always get mixed up these days, it seems. I'm looking at some elephant dung and some elephant tracks, and they look fairly fresh. So I'm hoping that our plan for today, or rather, I'm hoping that our plan comes together and that we'll actually be able to find some elephants. That would be great, wouldn't it? Hello, everybody. It's me. My name is Trishala, and I've got Johan on camera with me this morning on Zuma Game Reserve. And it's very warm already, which is quite lovely because that means that the elephants might be very active. I haven't heard any this morning just yet, but like I said, those tracks look fairly fresh and the dung is still wet. You can actually see on the road where the dung is, there's still some moisture there. It's left a bit of a stain on the road. There's a lovely breeze, and I think it's perfect to go and check out Treehouse Dam. See if we can find some elephants. I know Tristan is trying to find, oh well, he's always trying to find a leopard, so I'm wishing him a good luck. There was a lot of tracks around in the quarantine area and some alarm calls. some male tracks, possibly Tinganas, moved towards the dam and towards Gallego Pan, but out of the property, unfortunately, were a set of female tracks, possibly Tlalambas. Look at those tracks, really nice and clear, and when they're good elephant tracks, you'll still be able to see the little ridges made by the cracks underneath their feet. And you can see clearly that there are ridges here. So we should get going and move to Treehouse Dam and see if we can get lucky with these elephants. I think elephants swimming are some of the best sightings ever, and also a great way to start the morning, I've always thought. So let's go. Could be a little bit fresher if I was, right on their trail. But they seem to be leading towards Treehouse Dam. And at a dam, they're likely to spend some time. So when you're tracking an animal, you're always that many steps behind them. Sometimes it's not just steps, sometimes it's hours behind them. But if they're at a dam, maybe that means it gives us a bit more time. So we're gonna that they're still around. Anyway, let me send you over to another elephant lover, Taylor. She wants to say good morning.
There we go. Just the last look of a couple of kudu vanishing into the bushes this morning. It was quite nice. We had about 4 young kudu bulls just feeding out in the morning light. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Sebastian, and we are here at Pridelands Conservancy, which is part of Paludi Game Reserve, as well as the Greater Kruger National Park. Now, it's actually a gorgeous morning. We had such a nice sunrise, and we've got a few zebra just up in front of us. So what I am going to do is I'm going to sit quietly, because after we have a look at the zebra, we're going to go and find the next animal that's calling in the distance. Can you hear it? Doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. Might have to turn the volume up a fair amount because it's just in the distance, but it sounds like some ground hornbills that are calling. We'll go and look for them next, but just a small herd of zebra moving about with the kudu, hugging the drainage line. I suspect that they are making their way towards a leopard dam, which really isn't that far away, probably about 1 kilometer or so from here. But they'll go and have a drink. Zebra don't normally move too far away from water anyways, but it is lovely, lush and green, and we have had quite a bit of rain, so there might be some little wallows that are filled too, which they could drink for. But right now, all they've got on their mind is consuming as much grass as they like. You can see they're munching away, grabbing. They don't seem to be favouring any particular kind of grass, although when they eat right up and underneath the shrubs, they're probably going for buffalo grass, which is notorious for growing in sort of the shade and under trees. Amber, you said this is a really good start to the morning. It is indeed a great start. We're quite lucky. I'm actually really excited to try and find these hornbills, just because we haven't seen them for quite some time. If you look hard enough at Pridelands, you can always find a few stripes dotted in the bush. And then, of course, kudu. They're like ghosts. You see them every now and then, but it's normally just a quick look at them before they head down into the sort of thickets where they completely vanish, as we saw this morning. Oh, Seb, check who's come right up next to you. There's also quite a large herd of impala. I won't be able to see them too well, but this young male just came right up to the pathway, right up on an animal pathway, literally about 5 meters away from Sebastian. I don't know what it was thinking. Quite interesting. Right, now we're going to go from these impala here to an antelope with cow that's slightly more suited to a mountainous terrain.
Well, from impala grazing to something else grazing. Very sneaky and tucked away, blending quite well into this varied landscape of this mountainside or this hillside. And Owen would be giving you quite a wide shot now. We'll try and see if anybody can spot it. There is something there. Oh, it's on the move. And this animal's venturing up into this hillside for some grass that it would be grazing on. And it just shows you, when you're in the bush, you need to just look slowly. You need to slow things down. You need to take your time because there's a jackal. And then there's a rowan tucked away. Sorry, the guinea fowl just got my attention there. So utilizing animals' alarm calls to pick up on certain species, especially carnivores. But yes, this rowan venturing up into the high parts of this little mountain here, or little hillside. And not typically where you would find a rowan. A rowan tend to be on the flats, But obviously the good nourishment that this animal would find up here, it doesn't mind venturing into this rocky terrain. I mean, those rocks are quite large and then a lot of them are very loose. So this animal needs to be very careful when moving through this tricky landscape. But what a sight. And these animals prefer grazing. And also prefer grazing on taller grasses. There is definitely the right food source found there now. Pizza for breakfast? Making me hungry now. Yes, these mountains provide a beautiful habitat for reptiles. And as well as mammals, things like sengi, things like rabbits. But reptiles would definitely find reptiles would find a safe haven within this rocky terrain. Snakes and lizards, geckos, skinks, a very, very important habitat, and also something that increases Tswalu's diversity in terms of species because of this structure being present here. And then if you come down this hillside to where the rocks meet the soil, that is also now a unique and different habitat. So this mountain range is not only beautiful to look at on Tswalu, but it's also a very important structure here. Just look at this giraffe, Owen. This giraffe is looking north here. He's looking intently. And that jackal's running quite fast behind us. I don't know if these hyenas have snuck past us here and we didn't see them. So a giraffe having a very, very acute eyesight, they pick up on predators quite well, and you can just watch body behavior. If you think about communication, a lot of communication is done via non-vocal, so body language. And watching body language is a very, very quick and easy way to pick up on what that animal is seeing, hearing, or feeling. And you can see now he's stopped browsing and he's focusing dead in front of him. And if they see something, they lock onto that subject and they do not break visual contact. You can hear the guinea fowl on our right. Could maybe be a cheetah or a leopard busy moving through that thick brush there just close to the base of the mountain. We've got a female cheetah that loves operating through that section, and as well as a female leopard. We call it the Motsi leopard. Guinea fowl being very buddy? Okay. What are you be seeing? Another guinea fowl. Alright, but we're going to keep tabs over here for you folks, but we're going to send you over to Trishana when she's at the watering hole.
All our birds except for our Egyptian geese have decided to leave us. We're here at Treehouse Dam, and of course we were hoping for some elephants to grace us with their presence here. But it seems that they have moved on. Still beautiful scenery though. Everything's very still and calm, and I know this type of morning where the silence is just broken by the sound of alarm calls or leopards sawing. I was quite happy to see that there were 2 red-billed oxpeckers that came down to drink. And they actually came from that tree there, that dead tree, and they nest in cavities in dead trees. And the last time we were looking at one on Chitwa, we saw the red-billed oxpeckers with a little chick in a tree very similar to this one. But so far I can't see anything. Problem is that the chicks are very grey and the trees are very grey, so sometimes it's difficult to see until the parents arrive and begin to feed it. Even their bill is not red, but a dull grey. A woodland kingfisher has arrived. It's not very visible at the moment. Hopefully it'll dip down into the water as they do. And like these Egyptian geese, grab something to eat. Sir 50, you say you like all that green vegetation? So do the geese. They love a bit of greenery. So does every herbivore around here. But the geese, like you know, loves grass and seeds, or grass seeds. And for them, this is all particularly juicy. One of the problems with all this greenery, though, is that it doesn't concentrate elephants at the certain places where the water table is still high, that we're used to seeing them in, like around dams and things like that, because it's green all over the place and there's bits of water all over the place, which means that it's a little bit more difficult to find them. Doesn't it look like a beautiful painting? I think so. Very peaceful. I was hoping that there'll also be some wax bulls and green-winged petilias coming down to drink, but I expect they'll be here a little bit later when the sun is really beating down. That's when I see them most often, so we'll pay them a visit, because I suspect they hang out around here since I saw them quite a bit yesterday. Just didn't manage to get them on camera. So how about we head to our next water source and see what we find? I'd like to go to Twin Dams, maybe even into the Mulwati, and see what we can find there. A bit of birding would be awesome this morning, and Taylor is already on it. So let's go over to her in Pridelands.
Well, this morning is proving to be quite successful for us here at Pridelands, because if you were with us not too long ago, we could hear the faint calls of a pair of southern ground hornbills in the distance, and we've managed to find them. They were actually a lot further away than I anticipated. Also a cuckoo calling that I'm sure you can hear in the distance, trying to steal the show from us. Also, and it sounds like a fork-tailed drongo in there too. But now this pair have stopped calling, and they are focusing on a bit of morning feather maintenance, which again is of course very important, and birds tend to spend quite a bit of their day doing so. But we are very fortunate every time we get to see southern ground hornbills, as they are one of our endangered birds. Short but sweet. One jumps off, the other one of course will follow. Not the most graceful flyers, definitely not soaring at the altitudes that vultures can soar at, but either way they've got an enormous wingspan. When they dive down like that to the ground where they're better suited, well, that's exactly how they hunt. But quite cool to see. I did want to tell you though, there's a group, I think it's 3 or 4, I think it's 4 southern ground hornbills just on Quenga, which is a reserve that we're able to traverse on. Every now and then we go and look for the lions on that side, and they've just actually found a natural nesting site for the southern ground hornbills, which is really quite cool. So hopefully we'll be able to head down there and have a closer look at them. But hornbills are fascinating creatures. I'm just trying to figure out if it's a fork-tailed drongo that is now mimicking a cuckoo. Seb, I don't know if you can see. No, that's a starling. But you can probably hear it every now and then. But I'm not, like I said, drongos are masters of mimics, and they like to tease other birds. It might be a drongo actually, but I don't think we're going to get a view of it. It's quite thick. Okay, well, there is our content, and it is now gone. Thank you. I'm happy just to have a quick glimpse. It's been a while since I've seen hornbills on Pridelands. We don't get to see them, but every now and then they come to Impala Plains. We'll keep having a look around to see what other things we can find. I think we're going to head towards a watering hole and sit there for a little bit. I didn't hear where you're going to next, but I'm sure... Justin! Aha! I wonder if he's as growly and grouchy as he was yesterday.
Taylor, you're being full of nonsense. I was growly and grouchy at Taylor yesterday because I was fighting with my computer, and there was a long backstory to it. Anyway, we're trying to see if we can find whatever's causing the disturbance. The baboons have been shouting, all facing north. Somebody said they picked up a track for Tingana going to the north from the dam. Now, I've checked all the usual kind of spots, but this pathway here is one that he always used to use. I haven't seen him on it in a number of months, but it was one that he used to use, and it comes straight from Gallagher Pan northwards, and there's a termite mound that's on the edge of a drainage line that I've seen him sit on countless times before. So I wanted to check that termite mound quickly, just in case, but there's no sign of him there. I mean, he could be anywhere in this block. It's very, very dense and thick in here, and I don't want to just go crashing around, but this one is right next to the road, so just wanted to come and double check this game path to see if he hadn't potentially walked this way. These game paths here are good places to check because they lead straight to a water hole. So often what he does is he goes from the big main Gari Dam in front of camp, and then he goes Gallagher Pan, and from Gallagher Pan he just comes straight north to a dam here called Tamburti Dam. We've checked that dam, there's no sign of him there, which means he must still be this side somewhere. I couldn't find any sign of tracks crossing into Buffelshoek from this side, so just gonna go back down and Mvubu a little bit, just check if I can't see anything. Those baboons could obviously see him, and I saw the baboons this morning from where I stay. They had gone towards Gallagher Pan, so they must have gone up a tree there and then seen him somewhere in that area. The problem with baboons is that when they're up, they can see for miles. It's a lot further than people realize. And so it can be really,
very tricky with them in terms of actually finding the animal. What you normally want is baboons to shout and to give you a direction, and then for something like an impala or a squirrel or a bird to shout as well, and then that gives you a lot better idea of where and how and what is going on. So let's hope that we'll come back down here and we might get a little alarm call or something that indicates his presence. He could have crossed into Buffelshoek already. If that's the case, then unfortunately we're not going to be able to follow the tracks because there's already 2 vehicles in Buffelshoek. So we'll just see where they go. In the meantime, though, let's hope that some luck comes our way and he pops out in front of us.
Welcome back. And here's your free few minutes of pure energy that I would like to share with you guys. Amazing. Just to sit, be silent, allow oneself to almost adjust and appreciate all the sounds and smells around us.
We've just made it to our second water hole, and that is Twin Dams. And we found a different kind of herbivore than the one we were looking for, but beautiful nonetheless. There's some impalas. Look at that one, just blew you a kiss. It didn't. It was just doing a bit of a roar. Yes, they do roar. You would have heard them go. It's like they're burping. We have a nice little bachelor herd here. Now that most of the lambs have dropped, you'll find that all the herds are kind of going back to their normal. Impalas don't have really strict social structures. It can be in mixed herds. Sometimes they'll be in bachelor herds. Sometimes they'll be in breeding herds. And during a time when just before they're giving birth, and you'll find that they're quite mixed, and after that everyone's gone to their own little spots again. You'll find lots of groups of males all together. Starting off the morning like we all do. Have you ever thought about that? We all mammals, all creatures really, start off the morning just the same. Diurnal creatures. Get up, we have a bit of a clean. We take care of our ablutions. And then we have something to drink and something to eat. So if you had to say you start your morning off like an impala, you wouldn't be incorrect. Or like a kingfisher, or like an elephant. Sarah, these sounds are so lovely, you say? They really are. Sometimes it's quite nice, you know, in between segments and things like that, when we're sitting at the dam and you're with someone else and you're going to come to us, and you just sit here and you close your eyes, and it kind of deprives your sense of vision, and it makes all the sounds even better. Sometimes I like to count the layers of sound I can hear. Some things are very far, some things are very close. Sometimes you can hear, you know, the hum of your own body. It's just lovely. Can you imagine after we have some really, really good rains, our dams have already got water in them, and they're gonna be so full. I can't wait. Especially the little pan that's to the south of Twin Dams. Well, Twin Dams is called Twin Dams because they're two dams next to each other. It's just that the one on the south really gets filled. And that's the one where all the weavers were. That's the one I'm looking forward to because it's quite a shallow dam, and shallow water is great for all creatures. It's a safer place than deep water. So even though we don't have any crocs in this dam, you'll still find instinctively that when animals come down to drink, they'll be very, very cautious. But when there's shallow pans and things like that, they're a little bit more relaxed, which means that we can get some really lovely sightings. I still have tracks of elephants all over. Still think they're close by. So I'm going to go into the Mawati because if I was an elephant, I'd like to be in the Mawati. Well, I'm going to send you over to Kyle while I get down into the riverbed because he's got a special surprise for you.
Okay, copy, thanks.
Look how big they have gotten. They actually are starting to look like little Cape fox. So it's been, when last we've seen, maybe about nearly 2 weeks now. And they are starting to resemble that of Mom. Their tails have got bushier. They've got a little more chunky, a little bit more body mass. You can see Mom busy doing a little burrow maintenance there. Wow, look at them. They've still got a very puppy-like face. Their tails have grown tremendously since we've last seen them. What a pleasure it is that we can return to the site, and these animals are so relaxed with our presence. That's an adult. Okay, so Those are two adults on the right, so this is more than likely mom and dad. And then the little pup on the left. So where's the second pup? Because when we were here last time, there was two pups. But that pup has grown so much. Wow. You love watching them dig. It is a very entertaining thing to watch. And look how much soil that little animal moves. I mean, with not expending a lot of energy, very efficient way of shifting soil, putting it in between your hind legs and shooting it back. Almost meerkat style. Wow. They are such beautiful looking animals. Ah, there's the other pup. Okay, so both pups are still 100%. A little pup just came out the burrow now, getting a little groom from the parent. Canid species in general are very successful at rearing pups. It's because they actually join forces. So if you look at most canid species, they form monogamous pair bonds and very strong pair bonds at that. And both of them together work in unison to rear and protect these pups. So giving the pups a very, very good chance of surviving and reaching adulthood. Jackal, wild dog, Cape fox. Wow, look at that. Unbelievable. They are very devoted parents. And I can't believe how lucky we are to be able to be sitting here and looking at these wonderful animals. Like I've mentioned before, we normally just see them and it's a fleeting glimpse at night. You just see the tail or you just see the body moving in between the brush, but having them like this at a den site with pups is gold. And to be able to see these little ones grow, I mean, just over the short time frame that we haven't seen them, you can see the body growth is actually quite incredible. So showing that the parents are very dedicated to ensuring the safety of these little ones. Amber, why do they dig so many holes in the ground? So what that parent is just doing there is just removing soil which is shifted down into the burrow entrance. You need to ensure that you have a clear path if you need to move from the outside into your burrow very quickly. She's just ensuring that that entrance is open and clear, and then it could also be a little bit of fecal matter within the burrow entrance, which she could be removing as well. So just ensuring that the home is nice and clean and the doors are wide enough for them to move in and out freely with no obstruction. And there's multiple entrances and exits here. Not all of these entrances will lead into a central chamber. A few of them will link up to a chamber where obviously these little animals will reside and sleep. And then having multiple entrances and exits is a very quick and efficient way for one to escape in case the unlikely threat, an unlikely event of a threat or danger. So the parents would have been foraging last night, more than likely throughout the night, and they range in a very wide scope of food items. Anything from small rodents, young hares, insects of multiple individuals or multiple species, insects, beetles, scorpions, you name it. And then even things like berries they would utilize at certain times of the year. So showing you a very adaptable little animal and utilizing whatever is available at a given time. But what a treat. And then coming back early morning to a den site like this, and this is where they will reside for the rest of the day. Taking a little time just to do a little bit of maintenance, just like what is going on at the moment, and then relaxing, because you've been fairly busy throughout the night. And now when you can relax, you're going to take the opportunity and do so. But once it gets too warm, they will go underground. This is obviously where the temperature is constant and stable, but then also you're concealed. So there's no chance of a predator sneaking up on you, and you're safe along with your pups underground there. And this is actually a burrow system that's used by meerkats. When we first found these pups, we found the meerkats actually emerging from the burrow that individuals just sat down there. But obviously the Cape Fox now are using it freely. We're going to just hold horses here, and we're going to send you off shortly, and we'll see you when you get back this side.
Good morning and welcome to and Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. We've just come across these 3 white rhino. You can just see 2 on the right hand side for now, and then there's one just behind that dead tree there as well. My name is Pete, and this morning behind the camera we have Glenn. We're really looking forward to spending the morning with you. It's a really nice, cool morning here in Phinda, and we're really looking forward to spending the morning looking for some incredible animals again. These rhino, as we came across them, they just lifted their heads as we arrived, and they saw us, put their ears straight forward, and carried on with their day. You can see the one on the right is just moving to the right now. It's got a beautiful line there, and that's just from some mud. Maybe they found a little wallow last night, and they would have spent the night in there just cooling down, or just sleeping in quite a nice muddy area. I'm going to go forward a little bit just so we can try and get a different angle of them. So the one's just coming out now. You can see that one at the back is slightly larger. I'd expect that to be the dominant bull in this area. We have been seeing some dung around, some scrapings. Look how big that hump is at the back of his neck. Really, really big. And he's just trailing behind these 2 that have just gone behind the bush now. It always amazes me how, even though their head is down, they're grazing like that, they're keeping those ears moving, just making sure that there's no threats around, no potential predators or any other intruders. Thanks for the question, Strawfoot. Yeah, it's actually not too difficult to tell the difference. So if you're looking at that male on the left-hand side now, you can see he's got his head completely down, feeding on the ground. So white rhinos are grazers, so they feed on grass, whereas black rhinos, if you do get to see one, they always got their head up, and they've got quite a big bulge at the back of their neck, which keeps that heavy head of theirs up, and they're more browsers, so they'll feed on the leaves. Another big difference is their lips. So a black rhino has quite a hooked lip that helps them feed, helps guide that food, the leaves and so on, into their mouths, whereas the white rhino has quite a square lip, quite flat, made for kind of being lateral to the ground when they're feeding. Another small difference, often black rhino are found in really thick areas, and their ears, you often just see the ears poking out, and they've got almost like a disc-shaped ear, more rounded, whereas a white rhino has got quite pointy ears. And often, if you can't really see the whole animal, that's a telltale sign. We've also got some 3 little warthogs to our left that have just joined. Don't know if you can see, but they've got their little mane spiked up, and they often do that when there's a bit of conflict. You can see those two are actually butting heads at the moment. They are quite young warthogs, so they're probably just messing around. Really cute. They keep on wagging their tails, maybe just swatting the flies away. Very cute little family of 3. Often see rhinos and warthogs together. They feed in quite similar areas. They both like these flat, open grassland areas. These rhinos have just gone behind the bush to our right now. Don't know if we'll get another view of them. It's quite thick where they're heading into. See that warthog's now scratching his neck up against that red tree. You can imagine with all that mud sticking to them from wallowing and so on, they get quite itchy. Let's see if we can move a little bit. See if we can get one more view of these rhinos. They have gone behind the bush now. Let's try our luck here. It's really nice weather for them this morning. Nice and overcast. Quite cool. No, they seem to have gone behind this bush now. I don't think we're going to get another view of those rhino, but apparently Taylor's got an awesome elephant herd for you guys. So we'll see you later.
Well, this is quite an interesting scene that we have here this morning. So we did a little loop around. We picked up on some lioness tracks, but instead of finding a lioness, we found a whole herd of elephants, and they were charging down towards the water's edge here at Leopard Dam. Those are just a couple of the bulls that are keeping their distance from the main herd this morning. I'm not sure who herd it is. I haven't had a chance to look at some of the individuals, as, like I said, they burst through the bushes. It doesn't look like it's any of our favorites. Like, it doesn't look like Susan is here. It doesn't look like Alicia Keys' herd. But definitely not Masana, the female with the collar. And she's already in the thorny bush. But anyways, nice and early to have a quick drink before it gets too hot. You also hear lots of buffalo weavers. You can hear the cicadas. And then, of course, the slurping of the elephants. Not a particular fan when people slurp their drinks, but I'll take it when an elephant does it. I can definitely tolerate that. It won't bother me too much. I don't know how great the sounds are. Can you hear them, Seb? I'm actually just going to sit quietly then for a moment if you can hear the beautiful, tranquil sounds of elephants. Isn't that awesome? Two tiny little elephants now stirring up the water. I wonder what they'd found. And then, of course, the Egyptian geese, which some of you may remember when they were just little goslings, but they've grown up a fair amount now. Not quite as fully grown as the adults, but it is funny to see them when the elephants come down and start swimming. These geese in particular, now that they're older, they don't seem to mind too much. Isn't that awesome? How many different interactions you can have just around one watering hole. But it is going to be a scorcher today, so I don't think that this will be the last time that the elephants visit this watering hole, or another one. I think that they'll plan and do a loop and go and feed, and I reckon midday they'll come back, and then again in the afternoon. See, when there is so much water around, there's no limits as to how often you can come and drink and have a swim. I suppose you just got to make sure that you eat enough, otherwise it's a bit of a problem. Hey, it's very important that elephants eat, and they need to constantly feed for such a long time. I'd be a terrible elephant. I'd be very thin, because I would choose to just spend most of my time at the water's edge. I was telling you yesterday that I wouldn't leave the water. But just a quick drink, no time for swimming just yet. It isn't really hot enough, so there isn't much of a need for them to spray water and cool themselves of their body. I reckon that just standing in the shade and flapping their ears will be sufficient to cool them down. And I think a midday swim and an afternoon swim is going to be necessary for these elephants. But just as they were here, they disappear so quickly. But the bulls might have a swim. They like to linger a little bit longer. They might not have as many things planned for their day. Oh, we can rate the splash, Sebastian. Here we go, tail arched. Are you going to drop some dung into the water? No. False alarm. How disappointing. It's one of my favorite things to do. Rate the splash. That's what happens when you sit and watch animals for too long. Now there's much debate as to how much water an elephant can hold in its trunk, but obviously a bigger elephant can hold a lot more water than a little elephant. But they say it's anywhere between about 10 and 12 liters of water, so it's a fair amount. You can imagine some of these enormous bulls. But when you watch them suck it up, oh, is it this? Hang on, sorry, Wani, I got distracted. I think it's the same elephant bull that we watched yesterday afternoon at Ndlovu Dam. The first Ellie we saw, because he's also got a missing part of his trunk. I'm just trying to see if he looks at me. Turn around so I can see your tusks. The identifying feature is that triangle that he's sort of that notch bottom right ear. I don't know if you can see it when he flaps them open, but it very much looks like him. That's quite cool. So he's found a couple of friends now, and is also tailing a breeding herd. You can hear the Jacobin cuckoo. No, yeah, the Jacobin cuckoos above us. You might be able to hear them. But also is what I think the drongo was mimicking earlier. No, the elephants have not left. They've just found a shadier spot where perhaps there's a bit more mud, and maybe they will coat themselves in preparation for the hot day.
Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Join us around the fire as we have our very first Wild Earth Explorers Fireside Chat.
And what that means is that if you are an explorer, we're inviting you to come and join us so we can chat about the greatest highlights of 2020.
We will be chatting about our favorite characters and what they have been up to during the course of this year.
And if you would like to join us, head over to our Explorers page and subscribe. Don't miss out. This Fireside chat will be on the 13th of December at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time, straight after Sunset Safari.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily. Wild Earth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special Wild Earth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a Wild Earth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
We're here looking at the Wahlberg's eagle and her nest. Do you hear her calling? She's calling quite a bit. Haven't managed to see a chick in the nest just yet, though. But it's beautiful to watch her call. I always find that when you see birds making a call, that sticks in your head very, very solidly, as opposed to listening to a call and trying to remember that it's this bird that makes it. If you see it in one, it's just a lot easier. It's our pale morph mama. I'm not sure if maybe when I wasn't here, if you guys saw the chick, or did you just see them in the nest? Would it be great if we have another baby day and find all these wonderful little creatures? Oh, that's so gorgeous. And it looks like she's kind of peeking at us from behind that branch. Being a pale morph Wahlberg's eagle, like she is quite a unique thing, or quite a rare thing. Only about 8 to 12% of Wahlberg's eagles are pale. Most of them being intermediate and dark morphs. John, you'd like to know which bird is calling in the background. There's 2 birds calling in the background. One is saying, work harder, work harder. Can you hear that? That's a Cape turtle dove. And then there's the other one going, coffee, tea, and me. Coffee, tea, and me. That's an orange-breasted bushshrike. And then you can also hear a woodland kingfisher. Chip, chirr. And the one's going whoop, 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 making a greenback Cameroptera. And there's another one that goes doo 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 doo. That's an emerald spotted wood dove. And that's a Wahlberg's eagle. She does the bird calls much better than I do. I can't whistle, everybody, at all. I'm sure you knew this. If you hear me whistle, it's very poor, so I just have to tell you with my voice. She is in one of the greatest leadwoods on Zuma, in my opinion, at least living leadwoods. My favorite dead leadwood is the one on Twin Dams Road. Leadwood being the tree. It's got a beautiful structure, this particular one. Kind of looks like it's falling. And we can't see the trunk from here, but the trunk is really, really, really massive. It's one of those trees that are protected. Combretum imberbe. It's got quite small leaves, and the bark looks like it's got squares, like little jewels are pasted on the trunk in squares. Sometimes described like crocodile skin. These trees stand for hundreds of years, and even after they've died for maybe another 100 years, that they will stand. So that means that they're a lifelong resource for many, many, many creatures, for nests. There she goes again. Really lovely. And it's because of all the animals that would nest in them that they are so protected, even when they have died. I have been seeing so many red-billed oxpeckers all over the place, and I really want to see a nest with a chick again. But for now, we're going to move on, see what other jewels we can find here in the Milwaukee, and we're going to send you over to Kyle and Swallow with these Cape Foxes.
All right, so the parents have decided to take a little time for themselves. The pups have now gone underground into the burrow itself. And this is typical behavior after a night's foraging, just to relax out the burrow system, absorb a bit of warmth, and then when they feel they need to, they will go underground. And what you folks are seeing here is a species of fox that is endemic to Southern Africa. So if you look at it, it's found mainly in the central parts of South Africa, and then it stretches up into a little strip running up the western side of Namibia. So truly an endemic Southern African species, which is quite remarkable. You do have other species which occur further north in Africa, such as the fennec fox. It looks very similar. It's actually a bit smaller than this, but has very, very large ears. And then you get the ripples. So there is other individuals that look similar, but they're not obviously occurring north off of Southern Africa. But very beautiful and very special to see this little animal in broad daylight. And what a treat it is that we could be sitting here and sharing this with you folks. I mean, for me, it is absolutely golden. Seeing Cape Fox is always such a treat. So I don't think that these parents would be out here for too much longer, so we just wanted to share a little bit more. Oh, sorry, I didn't catch the person's name there, but I did catch the question, so apologies. FC, if you could just let me know the name again. Would any other species inhabit this burrow system? So this was initially utilized by a group of meerkats. What is their name? Collie. Connie. Hello, good morning, Connie. This burrow system was initially made by a group of meerkats that ranges north from the lodge. We're just north of Motsi Lodge, which is one of the lodges here on Swalu. And they initially made this beautiful and elaborate underground system. And these foxes have just kind of pulled in. They do have the ability to create their own burrow systems. But if you don't have to expend the energy in creating a system, why do that? When we initially found these beautiful little animals, where that individual is on the left, I think that Owen is on now, that's initially where we found the meerkats popping up from. And the Cape Fox emerged from these burrow entrances fairly close here to us. So not the same burrow, but same system. Remember, not all of these are interconnected or interlinked. So where that adult is sleeping, you could have 4 or 5 entrances that link into a burrow there. And then here in front of us, you could have 2 or 3 entrances that lead into a separate burrow. So they wouldn't be inhabiting let's say co-inhabiting one burrow system, one den or burrow itself. But one system, you can have Cape Fox and meerkats, although it's a bit dangerous. We can have meerkats and mongoose, and meerkats and ground squirrels. So initially they were here, but I see that these meerkats now have moved off further north. They've got obviously a few other burrow systems that they would use north from this position. And like we saw earlier, that a female busy doing a bit of burrow maintenance, that also could just be to remove parasites as well. And they could have jumped from one burrow to another in the same system. Sure, I don't know if I'm making sense there. I hope that answers your question, Carly. But the main order right now is just to do a bit of R&R. And then once it gets a little bit warmer, you would find that these individuals will go underground. And that's where they would reside for the majority of the day, and then only emerging around dusk this evening to start the night foraging. Well, we're going to send you over to Taylor, where she has some beautiful elephant.
Bless you. Why is there the butter smell all of a sudden? You smell that? Like leopard or genet urine. Well, this was weird. Maybe it was on that tree when, I don't know.
Though you are having less, we are usually Oh, sorry about that, and welcome back. We haven't had any movement from these beautiful animals, and I just hope that I explained that correctly, Carly. Yeah, so you can have meerkats co-inhabiting with these Cape Fox in this large system, but they would not be in the same chamber. That's the word I was looking for earlier. They would not be in the same chamber, so separate chambers, but co-inhabiting in the same burrow system. Whew, my brain is a little bit slow this morning. But a very amazing species to be seeing. I mean, I just relish moments like this because it does not happen every single day. And in the past 4 years that I've been guiding here on Swalu, this is the first time I've seen Cape Fox pups. So all together, once again, we are learning all together. And every day is a learning platform for me, from myself to learning about other people, learning about the environment. It's constant. Them curled up like that, they look so comfortable and so perfect. Wow. So we spoke about the sand being a major habitat, and you can see how important this sediment, this substratum, is even to Cape Fox, meerkats, insects, certain birds. So it is a very important habitat for a lot of species here. And obviously creating a nice safe haven, just like you're seeing in picture. So just so everybody is on board here at Swally, from here I think we're going to range a little bit further west, and we're going to do 1 or 2 roads, and we're going to see what tracks we can pick up along the way, and hopefully we can come across something enticing and something that's viable for us to use. Obviously age is very important, and determining age of tracks is a very tricky thing. So we know that by behavioral traits that these animals will go to bed very soon. So we'll push on and we'll continue a little bit further west, and we'll see what we can unearth. I've got a good feeling about this morning. Well, it's been great already. Beautiful white-browed sparrow weaver calling there. And that sun definitely starting to warm up. The cicadas were singing quite early this morning, so a nice indication that it's going to be a warmish day. So true to young animals' behavior. Eat, play, and sleep. You can see those pups were first down into the burrow. And this is where the parents can just take time for themselves and just do a little bit of snoozing. I mean, it's warm, it's comfortable, it's perfect. Well, we're going to move off from here, but we're going to send you off to Trishala for a little update.
We are just bumbling about who knows what will be around the next corner. Well, we will, because we're bumbling, and you'll be with me, won't we? So far, there have been lovely birds, great trees. That leadwood was beautiful. What about this great big tree? So there's a bit of a gap here. This one is a weeping boorbean. And you can see it's right there on that termite mound. Lovely, lovely tree. It was at this exact spot that I saw an elephant, well, we all did, see an elephant climb up onto the mound and try to reach. They have these pods, and from those pods, people can make a kind of coffee-like substance. I say coffee-like because in my world there's no substitute for coffee. And you can see it's on top of a termite mound. Termite mounds are really nutrient-rich. Despite the fact that they look, rather bare, and they're quite rich. And you know this tree because it has those really bright red flowers, or it did flower about a month ago, but some of them are still flowering. But this one was in full flower about a month ago. It almost looked like gorgeous red roses all over it. Now, it's called a weeping boorbean because of the amount of nectar that the flowers produce, that they actually drip. But that's sometimes how I remember the tree, because if you see it from afar, it's easy to recognize because the top of the tree kind of droops downwards. Can you see that all the branches point downwards? And I feel like that's it weeping too. That's how I remember. I want to have a look down at the roots there of this boer bean. Because they're really, really exposed. Kind of like thick snakes, like pythons coming out from the tree. And you'll find that often we forget that roots also have bark on it. And outer bark and rigid bark. And there you have a really good example of how roots too, even though the ones that we see are, gardens are usually covered, these ones are exposed and you can see that strong bark. Anyway, we'll find some more cool things like this, but I'm going to send you over to Pete in the meantime. He's at a waterhole. I wonder what he'll find there.
Welcome back to And Beyond Phinda, everyone. We've got a beautiful scene here. Really, really quiet morning, no wind at all. And we came across this pod of hippos with a nice little journey of giraffe in the background as well. The giraffe have actually been quite cautious when approaching the waterhole. They've been looking around. They heard something in the background, just in those bushes. You can see that line behind there. They've been staring in there. We heard some guinea fowl go off. You can still hear the one in the background, actually. But let's watch as that giraffe bends down to drink. Look how he's going to spread his legs wide. And let's see that. One of my favorite things to watch. Look how he bends his knees there. Slowly taking a big slurp out. And watch how the water comes out as he lifts his neck. They aren't able to drink for too long at a time. So because they've got such a long neck and their heart is put under quite a bit of pressure to pump blood around all the way up to their heads, they often have to lift up every now and then, swallow the water and then go back down. There's that little bit of water coming out again. Really beautiful stance. It doesn't look very comfortable though, but it is quite fascinating to watch. It's quite interesting to me how they've all chosen quite a similar place to approach the waterhole. Very beautiful. Look how the tails are just swishing those flies away. It's quite a long piece of hair they've got there. I'm going to echo. If we focus on these hippos right here, and you'll see that grey heron just resting on the back of the hippo. So that grey heron will just be waiting there for any little movements under the water and wait to just see a fish or a frog swim by and dart in and grab it. There we go. You might have seen something. No, but the hippo doesn't seem to mind. Look how he's just got his eyes closed, taking it easy. Seems like a bit of a win for the Well, Nina, that's a good question. So when they're fully grown at this age, they can hold their breath up to 5 minutes. Doesn't really happen too often though. You often see them just submerging and then lifting back up and taking in the breath from the top. You can see that one right by the grey heron now. Just went under for about 20 seconds and lifted back up. You see how these hippos have separated into two little pods here. Yeah, we're just going to sit here for a little while, see how these giraffes carry on, But I heard that Taylor's got something very interesting for you guys, so enjoy.
So you can imagine we obviously had a bird perched on that branch, but it has moved off. It was a beautiful African hawk eagle. I'm just going to see if we can't find it again. I think it's hunting around here because it's kind of just going from tree to tree. So I want to have a look, or at least maybe plotting, looking for a male. Didn't think that it flew very far. The only problem is that if we do find it, we're going to be staring straight into the sun, so you'll just have to take my word for it being an African hawk eagle. I don't think it went up. I think it went this way. Anyways, we're also trying to relocate on the breeding herd of elephants, so I'm going to keep my eyes open. So we'll take this little side road, and oh, there you go. One spot it said. Where's reverse? Is that right? So it's not going to be the greatest view, I'm afraid. I'm not going to go too close in case it does fly away. But just sitting in the distance, you can see a silhouetted figure out on the open branch. There is one of the African hawk eagles. Now, we know, because we see them all the time, that they are monogamous, which means that they like to hang around in pairs. So the other one probably isn't going to be too far away. And I'm pretty sure we've seen this pair quite a few times. They live up not too far from Marula Lane, and they used to have a nest there, but unfortunately I don't think they were successful at breeding this year. It must have been quite tough for them, but you can see this bird has been very, very active. Normally what African hawk eagles will do, it's quite cool what I've seen them doing before, quite similar to the Verreaux's eagle or the black eagles, is one of the pair members will fly a little bit higher than the other, and the one that's lower down will flush out some prey, and the one that's flying higher up will then shoot down and grab whatever they're looking for. Now, specifically in this area, the African hawk eagles love to hunt guinea fowl. They are specialists at feeding on ground birds, but they will also take some small mammals. But I've mainly been seeing them eating lots and lots of guinea fowl and franklins and spur fowls and things like that. But they wouldn't really be able to catch a bird bigger than sort of a guinea fowl. I reckon that's probably its sort of maximum. Otherwise, even just sitting from a perch like this, if they do see something down on the ground and a little bit of a distance, they might also swoop nice and low and grab that prey. Looks like it's going to take off again. Yep, normally once they've done that, lightening the load, not really lightening the load, but they will then take off. Thabo, from what I understand, is that the monogamy between African hawk eagles in particular will be for a very, very long time. But what I think sometimes people forget is that birds can sometimes come together just for breeding season, so they don't normally stay with one another all the time. And if they're not successful, so after 2 or 3 years, if they haven't successfully raised a chick, you might find that they'll go their separate ways. They're off with flies, and then they might find new mates. There's no point in sticking around with a mate when you can't successfully raise a chick. That's literally all these birds live for, is they eat, they mate, and they try and put all of their energy into raising offspring. So then they might split too, and of course if one of the hawk eagles dies, next breeding season I'll probably go and look for another mate too. So it just kind of depends with what animal species it is, I suppose. But if it is working and they are successfully raising chicks all the time, then why not? What's the point of changing something that isn't broken? You can see that this road has not been driven for a very long time. So I don't know how quickly those elephants have moved if they have passed through here, because once they left the watering hole they had a quick dust bath and then they zooted on through. I'm hoping that they slowed their pace down quite a bit. It's quite nice browsing and grazing through here, so maybe we'll get another chance to see them. We also had an encounter with quite a cheeky elephant bull. He thought that he'd try and intimidate us this morning. It kind of just erupted in laughter from Sebastian and I, so we weren't terrified at all. He was very funny though. You could see he was slightly defeated by the end of it, and then shook his head and turned around and walked away. So he was not so happy about that we didn't let him win. So he should be around here. I'm also just checking to see. Well, it looks like there's some tracks, very faint tracks already crossing the road. They might have pushed up a little bit further. But unfortunately, it's quite difficult in this area. It's so thick. Pridelands is very, very dense, as you can imagine, because remember, it was once a fenced-off reserve, and there weren't elephants here. But I think I've been told to send you away, but we're going to see if we can catch up with the elephants. I am watching a beautiful landscape where I see tons and tons of different trees. That big one is a jackalberry. There's a gentle breeze blowing and lots of gorgeous sounds to be heard. So let's take a moment to appreciate them all. Really nice to share some of these quiet moments with you guys. Remember how I said to you, sometimes I close my eyes and just listen? Those are a good time to be able to do that. Always, always beautiful.
Welcome back to And Beyond Phinda. The small herd of impalas just joined us at the waterhole. They seem to be moving back closer towards the giraffe, possibly for a little bit of safety. They probably feel a little bit more comfortable with their taller friends around. That can keep a good eye out for them while they drink and feed close to the water's edge. Glenn and I recently just saw quite a large crocodile swim by here, almost in their direction. So I think it's best that they keep quite wary. That grass alongside the waterhole looks really nice and luscious. Looks very palatable and looks like they're really enjoying it. It's amazing to watch impala. You'll see some of them you'll feed, but there's always going to be one that's got their head up, keeping an eye out and looking around for any potential predators. And that's one of the reasons that impala are so successful at breeding. They're just always so cautious. They've got really good eyesight, really good hearing, and they keep an eye out for each other. Really lovely sounds. This grey heron hasn't got lucky yet on this hippo's back. Oh, there he goes. Swimming like a back up. He missed. But that hippo didn't seem to mind too much. Just keep his eyes closed. It always amazes me to think how hippos aren't swimming. They're just standing on the bottom, just floating there with their legs on the bottom. You can imagine that looks like they're in the middle of the waterhole, but it's obviously quite shallow there. the younger hippos struggle a little bit sometimes, so they often climb onto the mother's back or the back of a friendly adult. If we scan across to this yellow-billed stork over here, you can see it's very busy attempting to catch fish. If you watch carefully, you might every now and then see just some fish swimming around or flashing past. Look how it's diligently going at it, shuffling through the mud at the bottom, hoping to catch something. There he struck. No luck. That coloration on his legs and his bill are really, really beautiful. Such bright, vibrant colors. If you look slightly to the right, there's some white-faced whistling ducks, and they're busy cleaning each other. Just lost the signal. Look at them busy grooming each other, picking off any little mites or insects that they might have that are annoying each other. We were talking yesterday about the life that a waterhole brings, and it's incredible to see here where there's probably over 20 different bird species in this one waterhole, and we've got hippos, inyala, giraffe and impala all together here. If you look just behind that one giraffe that's about to drink, there's a spoonbill very, very busy wading through that water. You can see he's just shuffling. Look how he's slowly creeping up to the water's edge. That's not their usual tactic for hunting. They normally wade like he's doing now, moving that bill from side to side. He's just gone behind that plank now. So that's another yellow-billed stork there, and then another spoonbill. They seem to just be resting. You see the yellow-bill on the left, yellow-billed stork. He seems to just be cleaning his feathers, preening a little bit. He looks slightly pinker than this one that was a bit closer to us. Can you see that on the wing? And if you go slightly to the right, there are those little black-winged stilts, which are very pretty birds. Really long, skinny legs. Perfectly designed for wading through shallow waters and looking for any little movements underneath, whether it's small fish or little arthropods. The giraffe on the right's just got a bit of a fright. He went down to drink and something spooked him, and he decided to give it a second thought. Perhaps they've seen something recently where a crocodile's been quite aggressive or hunted something. So obviously when they come down to the waterhole, they're going to be slightly more cautious, even though I doubt a crocodile would go for a giraffe. But obviously they just got to be quite cautious. The one giraffe on the right-hand side now is busy herding those warthogs away. Look how they just slowly move out the way. And even if you scan to the left now as well, the giraffe is doing, another giraffe is doing the same thing with the impala. And it's always fascinating to me to see the hierarchy out here in the wild. There's always a line. Like last night when we saw the hippos were above the buffalo, and the elephant was above the rhino. So there's always a hierarchy. They'll just move out of each other's way. They know, okay, I've got to respect my boundaries, and I know that if I don't, I might get myself in a little bit of trouble. It's quite interesting. I'm not too sure what that giraffe is doing. It looks like he wants to feed off the ground, which I haven't seen too often. Maybe there's a little shrub that's caught his interest. Her interest, rather. Hello? Thanks, Chris. Yeah, they are really, really majestic. Look how they just walk so slowly, so gently. Especially if you look at their eyelashes, they've got such pretty long eyelashes. They don't look like they have a care in the world. That giraffe that's slightly closer to us, that's a young male, and you can see his skin tone is slowly starting to get a little bit darker, and I'm sure when he gets fully grown, he's going to be a beautiful dark male. Layla, that's a great question. So I'm not too sure the exact answer, but I can imagine out here there's a lot of flies around, and those eyelashes will protect them from flies. Also, often they're feeding in the thick trees with a lot of thorns. If you look to that one on the right-hand side, he's put his head right inside that bush, and those eyelashes might just keep away those thorns and protect their eyes. You can imagine how important their eyes are in survival. If you watch the one feeding on the right-hand side, you might be lucky enough to see their long tongue coming out and wrapping around the branch and stripping those leaves. Quite amazing. That tree that giraffe is feeding on is called a Timbuktu tree, and if we had to eat a bunch of those leaves, we'd get really, really sick. But these giraffe have amazing metabolism that are designed perfectly to handle these kind of foliage and leaves. So we're going to sit here for a little while longer, see if anything else carries on, but Trishala's got something for you that's very fascinating.
Look at these testiculars. It's so lovely to see them shouting, because very often we only hear them. Shouting, shouting, shouting. But we have, Sister, something much bigger behind you. You were just looking so gorgeous. Where has our elephant gone? There he is. In a bit of shade. The birds are really great today, and they're distracting me. Oh, I think I might sit here for a little while while we watch this elephant. You can see that he's flapping his big ears and trying to keep cool. This morning it heated up very, very quickly. And I've been looking for elephants the whole day. Unfortunately, I didn't get a herd. But it's still pretty cool to see this guy. Now, he is deep in the block, so this is as good a view as we're gonna get. And there's lots of birds around him. They're busy shouting. There's the sticklers, you can hear the blackback puffback. I just saw it just now too. I'm just gonna have to sit here, I think, and we'll talk about the elephant for now, and then we'll do some birding in the next segment, because I also see some firefinches. When I see all of them around, usually there's more. I wish this big guy would turn around for us. So we could have a good look at his gorgeous face. He looks like he's thinking very carefully about a nap, I think. There's a moment when he was very still there and kind of swayed to one side, and sometimes they do that when they're having a nap standing up. But also remember that they don't only sleep standing up, they sleep lying down too. It's just these little naps that they catch while standing. Is that Bev? You'd like to know if most elephants are solitary? No. It's only the males that tend to be more solitary. The females always stick in their breeding herds. And in the breeding herd, you'll have mothers and daughters, granddaughters, and all the young, including young males. It's the older males that when they're in their late teens, mid to late teens, that they'll start to be solitary. And even then, they'll come together in bachelor herds with other males. And then when they're much older, then you'll find them completely on their own. Even this guy here, he's not very, very old. And I can't really see his legs, so I can't get a good gauge of his height. But I would only put him into his mid-20s. He's the size of a medium-sized cow, not very, very large. And maybe even early 20s. So he would have just recently started the solitary life for the last couple years. And what he'll do is he'll find and search for herds with receptive females to try and mate. So it's only the males that will move around either on their own or in small bachelor herds. Bachelor herds are not very large, just a few males. Or sometimes you'll get a very old, large male bull with some of these younger bulls that have just left their herds, and we call those askaris. I think he is catching a bit of a nap. Hi, Alex. You'd like to know how long an elephant's tusk can get? Quite long indeed. So anything longer than 1.5 meters, we call that a tusker. To put that into perspective, I'm about 1.58 centimeters. So it's not very big for a human, I know that. But for a tusk, that's pretty long. But tusks can get even larger. 2 meters, 2.3 meters have been recorded. And those are very, very, very large tusks. But if you're a very, very, very large bull, then it would look quite appropriate. And remember, it's not just the part that's exposed that's counted when you are measuring a tusk, because a tusk is a modified incisor tooth. So there's a teeth, they're lodged into the gum, and they will hurt just like teeth if they're broken. So that part, they measure the entire tusk when taking that measurement. This tusk looks like maybe it's half a meter to maybe 60 centimeters. Not very, very large. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love when they do that. It's like they wake up in the morning and then they rub their eyes with their trunks. I often hear birds shouting around them when they come through, and that's not because they're a predator, because we're used to that sound being associated with alarm calls, but it's also because they disrupt the environment as they go through. So maybe the birds have nests and things like that, and they get a little bit irritated at the elephant that's moving through indiscriminately, and it can possibly eat their nest. No, that usually doesn't happen, and if it does happen, the elephant can throw up. I have had the good fortune of finding some elephant throw up before and sifting through it. So before they take in anything that is not plant material, that they're not used to digesting, they'll feel it, because their tooth structure and everything associated with their feeding is designed for herbivory. And as soon as they feel something is off, maybe they've crunched a bone by mistake, even though they're so large and their teeth are the size of bricks, small bricks for small elephants, they will kind of regurgitate it and spit it out. It's not really digested, or even partially digested, it's just stuck together. It's like it was full of like a saliva ball, like a hairball, but a vegetation ball. And it usually gets dried by the time we find it, so it's just a strange looking thing. You pick it out in the bush immediately if you see it. This guy is sleepy. This is what a sleepy elephant looks like. Standing in one place, swaying, flapping the ears, staying still, flicking the tail, maybe take 1 step or 2 steps, and then stay still again. Very cute. Okay, well, Kyle has some gorgeous birds for you, and I'm going to stick around here because I want to be able to show you some of the birds that we've found with this Ellie.
Well, welcome back on board here at Swale Kalahari. We are just enjoying this beautiful lesser grey shrike, and just like the wattled starlings, this year there seems to be an abundance of these birds. In previous years, professionally guiding here, I've only seen 1 or 2, but this year it seems like there's a lot more. And that's because these birds would have ranged further south because of the abundant rain that we have received. And obviously that correlates with growth of vegetation, or vegetation growth, and as well as insect growth as well. So it's the perfect spot for this bird to range further south. Although the distribution does cover this part of the country, you find them in the northeastern corner, ranging further down to the central part of South Africa, and then going up into just the western sections of Namibia, meeting South Africa. They do range a bit further south. Obviously, their core is within southern Africa, stretching into the northern part of South Africa, going up to the northeastern corner of South Africa. But very abundant. I mean, yesterday we found 3 or 4 within one given area, flying around, chasing each other. It's a real treat to see a bird that's not seen on a day-to-day basis out here. You can see when it turns its head, it's got this uniform grey cap. There we go. Very distinctive. Exactly the same morphological structure as a common fiscal, or the fiscal shrike, sorry. Obviously that fiscal shrike having a common fiscal, having that uniform black cap. You can see how it's looking for any potential food items, gleaning, sitting perched position and just scanning and surveying the land around it. The sun is really putting its heels in now. That heat is really starting to set in the morning. And we are slowly meandering west. We've just utilized the first cut line going west. And we're looking for anything from birds to plants, tracks, enjoying the sounds. Are these one of the smallest birds on Tswalu? We get smaller birds than this individual. This individual is about 20 odd centimeters. 20 odd centimeters, and we have a tiny little bird called a finch. Well, it was previously known as a finch, sorry. It's now known as a scaly feathered weaver, and that's only about 10 centimeters and only weighing at about 11 grams in total length. So this bird being a lot bigger than that little scaly feathered finch. This bird would weigh anywhere between, I think it's about 40 or 50 grams. So quite a chunky bird, and it has to be quite robust because it is a predator, predating on insects of various kinds. And I've even seen them take chicks out of their nest. And obviously that hook-like beak is a very efficient weapon on how it would deal with its various prey items. But insects of various kinds, and then mainly beetles as well, this little bird would predate on. All right, it's gone out of view. So let's continue a bit further west over here. Start up the old trusty steed. And it's just a beautiful thing to enjoy one straight road and just to be able to take it slowly. While we do that, we're going to send you over to Shala, and we'll see you when you get back to the side.
We have a fork-tailed drongo in the tree just above the elephant, and that's very typical because as the elephant moves through the bush, it kicks up all sorts of insects. And that's just perfect for the drongo. Swoop down and catch a convenient meal. This elephant is now a little bit more awake. Hasn't moved much from the spot that it's hiding its head in, but it threw some dust over himself. Oh, now we're getting some feeding in. When they beat their ears like that, or when they flap them like that to cool down, sometimes they beat them quite hard, and you can hear the sound of it hitting the body. It's It's quite a unique sound, something that you'll never associate it with anything else. In fact, what it does sound like is when you're cleaning a carpet, when you're dusting a carpet, and you hit it against something. That's kind of what it sounds like. I just heard it faintly just now. I was hoping you would have heard it too. To me, it feels like it's already about 28 degrees. It is so warm. It's about 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Already breaking a sweat, so it's no wonder this elephant is flapping his ears so vigorously. Gets a nice cool current over the ears. John, you'd like to know why it's rubbing its head against the tree? It's not actually rubbing its head against the tree. When we first got here, it was just using that bit of shade, because you can see that it's shady part around an area that's quite open and sunny. So it's not rubbing its head against the tree as much as it's trying to stay in that piece of shade. And also because it's quite sleepy, it can use it to lean on. So it's not rubbing its head, but rather just taking advantage of the shade and being able to lean on it just a little bit. Elephants are adorable to watch. And sometimes, when they're a little bit nappy, because sometimes they may just be tired and kind of semi-sleepy but not actually napped, and they can take these like micro naps, and other times they'll take a full-on nap. You can drive right past and it's not moving for anybody. Eyes will be closed in the middle of the road, standing up, and other times it will be on the ground sleeping. But this guy seems a little uncomfortable, maybe with the heat, and just wants to lean on that Combritum. Flick its ears to cool down and use that spot of shade. I hope it'll go down to Treehouse Dam so we can watch it in the water. Anyway, let me send you over to Taylor in Pridelands. I'm going to head down to the dam and see if there's any other elephants there.
Detected that elephant's technique of leaning up against the tree and having a siesta. But for now, we've gotten not an elephant, but a hippo that is also rather sleepy. You can see his eyes are just closing, but got half of his back out and exposed in the sun. Goodness gracious, hippopotamus. That it's going to be a hot day, and unfortunately there's not much shade for him to really tuck himself under, so he's just going to have to suck it up and use what adaptations a hippo has to protect themselves from the sun. And of course you've heard this 565 million times, but I shall tell you, well, the few people that maybe haven't been watching, have just joined, is that hippos are able to secrete a natural sunscreen and antiseptic, which is called Hippocedric Acid, and it sometimes looks like they're actually bleeding, because they don't sweat like you and I will sweat, but it's quite cool. So we might be able to even see that. Hello, boy. Am I speaking too loudly? Have I woken you from your slumber? No, just going deeper into the water. He heard me. And basically, I just mommed him, saying, put sunscreen on. So now he's gone, well, I'll just take a dip and cool myself down completely then. He's probably been out for most of the evening. Let's see. Sometimes he's quite a funny hippo. He gets quite rowdy and he not quite porpoises out of the water, but he definitely throws his head around and thrashes about a little bit. And I was hoping that if we sit at Ndlovu Dam for maybe 20 or 30 minutes, we might get some buffalo or, oh, never mind, Sebastian, the elephants have arrived. Up and to the right, some ellies have come through. I'm hoping for a big breeding herd of either elephants or buffalo. because I'd like to see them come right up into the water and see what this hippopotamus does, because he's been quite tolerant of the animals that come through for the last little while. So he hasn't really given much of a reaction to them. But more and more grey giants are appearing from behind all the trees. It looks like I think it's just the bulls for now. We shall see. Wait a little bit as they come on down. They don't seem to be in any hurry at all, in fact. They're trying to make Sebastian's job very difficult today. How many trees can we hide behind? Yes, that one's definitely a boy. Also hear brew calling in the distance. The birding has been fantastic over the last little while. Thank you, elephant. Slowly appearing from behind the bushes. And these will be some of the regulars that live pretty much inside the eco training camp. I suspect that camp is going to be quite busy and that all the big trees are going to be sort of occupied by the various herds of elephants and bulls that come on through. It's going to be a day for a siesta if you can find a nice cool spot. Well, the elephants are on their way down, and the hippo seems to actually be moving in their direction. Sorry, Seb. Let's see what he's going to get up to. He's obviously spotted them. Let's see if he's going to be cheeky and tell them off before they even get to the water's edge. You're completely invisible now. No one will know you're coming. He's crocodiling in. If you've ever seen a crocodile, how they just sort of dip below the surface of the water and then swish their tail from side to side ever so gracefully. Amazing how they can actually propel themselves. But without anybody knowing that they're there. Oh, he stopped. He definitely knows that the elephants have come on around. But we'll see what he does. But hopefully some more action will erupt here at Indlovu Dam. We are definitely not going to go anyway.
Join our Explorers program so we can keep on sharing nature with the world. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions, have access to an animal identification app, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn connects a global population with nature.
My name is James Hendry, and I work here at Zuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. My favorite part of getting questions from viewers is that we get to have long and varied discussions about all sorts of different aspects of nature. Because our audience comes from all over the world, it's very special to have different perspectives from everywhere. If you want to submit a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to the Live Safari page and submit your question beneath the live feed.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Zuma. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
Join us around the fire as we have our very first Wild Earth Explorers Fireside Chat.
And what that means is that if you are an explorer, we're inviting you to come and join us so we can chat about the greatest highlights of 2020.
We will be chatting about our favorite characters and what they have been up to during the course of this year.
And if you would like to join us, head over to our Explorers page and subscribe. Don't miss out. This Fireside Chat will be on the 13th of December at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time, straight after Sunset Safari.
Welcome back to And Beyond Pinda. There were 4 buffalo bulls just on our right hand side, and they've just crossed the road. Really old, beaten and battered boys. They've just crossed the road now along this game trail. They've come straight from a waterhole, and they're nice and muddy. Not too sure if you can see the back of them. A lot of mud on there, but they're probably heading out now to find some nice grazing fields. So we've also got some wildebeest on our right. If we just go forward a little bit. There's some wildebeest here, which fortunately were close by. They've also just got their heads down, feeding on these new shoots. You can see, looks like there's been a recent fire here, and with the bit of rain, these shoots have just pushed out, and these wildebeest are really, really enjoying that. So these wildebeest still look quite young. This one at the back here on the left is a young male, so he won't have a territory of his own just yet. But how male wildebeest have their territories, they'll have an area, quite a large area with sufficient food and water, and they'll stick to that area for most of their life until the water or the food depletes. And they'll wait there and protect that territory with their lives and wait for females to come to them to breed. And hopefully if their territory is good enough and if their little patch is attractive enough, they'll get the females to come to them. And just at this time of the year now, similar with the impala, we'll start seeing a lot of young wildebeest around. And they're very, very sweet. Quite a light color. Hopefully we will come across one and show you guys. If you look at that wildebeest on the right-hand side, the furthest right, you might notice he's got a little bit of mud on the horns there, especially on the right-hand horn if he does turn again. And what they do is they often rub their face. They've got two little glands on either side of their nose, just below their eyes, and it secretes quite a smelly ointment that other wildebeest will pick up the scent, and that's how they mark their scent. They've also got the same glands between their hooves, and you'll often see them scraping in the sand or in the soil, and that's just to mark their territory and just to spray. You can see now that he's just faced us. He's got a lot of mud on his face. He would have been rubbing his face inside that mud and just putting his scent out there. But I've heard Tristan's got something great for you guys, so we'll catch you just now.
Well, what a lovely surprise, because we've got Kuchava and little Not Made is around as well. He's being very shy at the moment. Unfortunately, he does not want to be seen too much, but she is calling him, so I'm hoping that at some point the little one will kind of come towards where we are. Interestingly enough, though, we were following tracks for Tundi for a long way, and she's come also into this area, and as we kind of got with her tracks into Cheetah, the guys said that they just had a brief view of her and they'd lost her in the bush, and then as they were trying to relocate, they came across Kuchava and the cubs. So it seems as though Tundi's also around somewhere here. Kuchava looks pretty chilled at this stage. He doesn't look as though, or she doesn't look as though she's too worried. And I mean, it's not like Tundi and her are fighting. There's no salivating that we're seeing. So I don't think they've kind of caught each other, but it's just they're very, very close to one another. The distance between the two sightings is probably about 200 meters, but yet they don't know of one another as far as we can see. I'm just glad that we've finally got a kind of sighting of Kuchava and particularly her cub, because he's not been around much at all. Difficult to kind of find him. He's been spending a lot of time to the south towards kind of Mala, Nets, those properties there, and that means that, you know, we don't get to see very much of him at all. But I'm hoping, she was calling just now, so I'm hoping the more she calls, the more he's likely to kind of come back towards her, and we'll see him kind of joining with Mom and lying down in the shade. There he is there.
Big action with butterflies.
Just trying to see where he goes. Zach, you're asking how old this leopard is? Come on, boy, come towards us. He's just behind Mom, very difficult to see. Where is Theo? Can you see underneath that tree to the sort of, maybe about 40 meters behind her, there's like a stump. It's just to the left of that stump. But Zach Kuchava is now, I've got to remember now, she was born, I want to say 2014. 2014 would be about right, I think. I must just double check. So she's one of Tundi's offspring. She was the third. There he is. You see him there. It's good to see him. It's been so long since I've seen him. In fact, the last time I saw this little cub, go to there we go. Found him. The last time I saw him was, I think, in May, somewhere there. So it's been a long time. Now, unlike Tundi's little boy, who's started to relax really nicely, this cub, not so much. And that's simply due to the fact that he's getting so little exposure to vehicles these days. He's typically spending a lot of time hidden, and when he sees cars, he does what you're seeing now. And so it's important to sit with her, not chase him around, rather just sit with mom, and that desire to come towards his mother will eventually lead him to being a little bit more relaxed with the cars. But isn't that cool to see him? I know a lot of you have been wanting to see these two for a long time, so it'll be a welcome update to have them. And you can see how much he's grown since, well, particularly since the last time I saw him. He's double the size of what he was, maybe even more at this stage. Beautiful kind of looks about him, very similar to Tundi's cubs in many ways. Also quite a light-colored leopard, which leads me to believe that potentially it could be Mulawati, that's the father of both this cub and Tundi's cub. But we'll have to see. Typical male leopard, though. Big ears, big paws, and big muzzle. It looks like they're kind of too big for their body. And they eventually grow into it, and they look a little bit more kind of in proportion once they reach sort of 2-3 years old. They typically, the ears don't look as crazy big. And it's a trait of this particular lineage. I mean, Tundi's boys, most of them have had big ears, and obviously in Kuchava's case, she's a direct descendant of Tundi, and so maybe that gene is being passed down to her little boy. Here he comes. I think he's going to come say hello to Mom. Isn't that cool? I'm so happy to see him. Hard because it's hot. This is a way a leopard cools its body down. So like when we sweat, basically what that is that there's moisture coming out of our skin, and so with them there's moisture on the tongue, and as they're panting, hot air is passing over that moisture. It's causing evaporation to take place, and as that moisture is evaporating, so what we're seeing is cooling. So it's how cooling works, is when hot air passes over water, as it becomes a gas, so cooling takes place, and then the cooler blood in the tongue is going into the body, and so basically it's like their little air conditioning fan system to help cool them down. But they do require shade and a lot of water in places that get hot like this, so even the panting without shade, they would overheat as well. Let's see if he's going to come greet Mom. He's beautiful, though. I can't believe how big he is as well. He's not too much smaller than Mom these days. Come on, boy, it's okay. You don't have to worry. I'm quite glad he came round towards us, because he was far on the other side. But luckily he's come all the way around all the other cars and decided to come from our side, which makes me happy, because we've had a really nice kind of view of him coming in towards Mom. And this will be invaluable for him in terms of understanding that we're not a threat and we're not doing anything to him. When you sit like this and everybody's nice and quiet and Mom is here and the cub slowly approaches Mom, it's really kind of teaches him that her body language is showing that she's at complete ease, and therefore he doesn't have to stress as much. Now, he's a much older cat to be doing this with. Tundi's little male was a little bit like this at one point, but lately, because we've been spending so much more time with him, and it's not just us, I mean, there's multiple vehicles that are spending time with him, he's become like a little rock star and is getting more and more relaxed by the day. And all it takes with this guy is a good couple of sightings like this, and he'll eventually calm down. Elizabeth, he is a handsome boy, isn't he? I mean, there's very few young male leopards that are not handsome. I mean, I know that a lot of them get the kind of big ear syndrome and they can look a little bit goofy, but for the most part, young male leopards typically are good-looking creatures. Here we go, look. Come and say hello to Mom. You can see he's a lot more aware in his approach. You're getting massive, boy. I'm just going to keep quiet. Let's see if he talks to Mom. There we go. No talking, but at least they've settled down now. I know it's not the greatest view for us right now. We've just got him kind of peering behind a branch, but I just want him to settle before we move. I don't want him to feel like he's being like boxed in or anything like that. It's important to just let him kind of get into the grooming with his mother, and then we can move a little bit and have a slightly better angle on the two of them together. But you can see what I was talking about size. You see how he's actually sitting taller than Mom now, and head size. This is something that we've discussed a lot in terms of sexing male and female leopards. If you look at his head size, even though he's younger than her and he's still developing, look at the width of his muzzle. Do you see how much wider his muzzle is than hers? Her nose kind of comes down to a point, and she's got quite a sort of smallish head, whereas he's got a big, bulky head in relation to his body. You can already see his muzzle is larger than hers. All right, now that they've settled into a little bit of grooming, I'm going to just go forward slightly. Oh, shame he got a bit of a fright with that. Oopsie. Sorry, boy. See how he's not used to our cars versus the other cars. So the diesel engines that they have, he's seen those a lot more than these petrol engines, and so when this car starts, he gets much more of a fright than when the other car starts. I thought he was going to settle down, and with Mom grooming him, he would be okay, but he decided against it, unfortunately, which is not what we wanted at all. Shame. Sorry, boy. I didn't mean to disturb you. Anyway, we'll sit here and hopefully he'll come back. I suspect that he will. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Trishala.
Oh, it's so wonderful to have Kuchava and Tristan together spending some time. Yeah, we found some European bee-eaters. Yay! I've seen them flying around, but it's the first good sighting I've had of them where they're actually sitting. And they're being very entertaining for us because they're dipping themselves in the water and coming back up. They're very, very entertaining, putting on a show for us today. So we're sitting at Treehouse Dam looking at all the wonderful birds. And then a big, great leopard tortoise came down to have a drink too. So it's been an exciting day at Treehouse Dam with all the wonderful birds and... Oh, this is... One of the bee-eaters keeps dunking itself in the water. Here goes another. If we just watch the water, we'll be able to see them. There you can see the spot where it's dropped down. We'll just watch for a little bit because you'll see how gorgeous it is when they do it. I think we've finally hit the birding sweet spot. I can also hear a bearded woodpecker. I can see blue waxpulls and red-billed aquilias just in that spot right there. So much gorgeous bird life going on here. I think I'm going to stay here for quite a while. I'm going to send you over to Taylor and her swimming elephants.
We don't see many different bird species at Ndlovu Dam because of the Egyptian geese and, of course, the hippos and the elephants and buffalo and things like that. Too much traffic, but our hippopotamus has decided that there's no point in trying to compete with the elephants this morning as there are too many of them. So he has just moved back off to the left and parked himself in a nice little spot where I think he will remain for the rest of the day, unless some of these bossy elephants that are swimming about push too close to him. He might have to stand up for himself a little bit. But it was quite interesting. So in and amongst these elephant bulls is quite a young elephant. He's the one just to the right. He hasn't quite submerged himself just yet. I think it's him. But when I say young, like a good... Oh, no, not that one. The one... Yes, yeah, that little one, yeah. He's much younger than the other elephant bulls. Like, he didn't even look like he was anywhere close to the age of about 10 years old. I thought that he'd probably be around 7 or 8. I mean, I'm just guessing, which is very, very young to be away from a breeding herd. So I'm not sure why he's hanging with the boys. And he came in here with these other 3 elephants. He didn't come in with the breeding herd that's behind him. But they seem to be quite happy about it anyways. There's also an elephant in here with a... he's missing his trunk. Oh, here we go. I think one elephant has now realized that there's actually a hippopotamus there. You can see they're moving closer. Hippo is now not impressed. Where are you going to? Submarine to next. He's just probably saying, you've got the entire dam to play in. Why do you have to come and annoy me here? Yes, as he submarines away, pretends to be a rock. This hippo is very funny. Now, if there was a pod of hippos here, they would not be very impressed. If we're at Chitwa Dam, there'd be a lot more commotion, and the hippos would definitely visibly show you how upset they were. But this fella is funny in the sense that he just pretends that he's invisible and that no one can see him. Why he does it, I have absolutely no idea. But you can see he's made absolutely no effort to move away, and he can't be more than about 5 meters in total from those elephants that are playing just behind him. And because they are young elephant bulls, you know what they're like. They come and try and cause trouble with the vehicles. They cause trouble in camp. They cause trouble with everyone. I'm surprised that they haven't yet gone and stirred a bit of havoc. So, I don't know if you noticed, there was that little elephant that just walked... I don't know if you noticed, there was a tiny little elephant just moving at the back, and it was missing its tail. So this is the same breeding herd we actually saw yesterday. And so they seem to be doing the circuit around in Ndlovu Dam. And there's only 10 of them in the herd. 5 of them are adult females. One of the females has quite a big tear in her ear. And then, of course, another identifying feature is that there's a young calf that's missing its tail, which is quite cool. So a nice little breeding herd with these bulls just tailing them. But off they go. They've had a drink. Some of them have completely covered themselves in mud, others not. Wait, little ones all now, of course, head first into the sand because they just can't help themselves. Now, Nadia, perhaps you missed the elephant that was taking a nap with Trishala. It was actually resting up against a tree. So elephants can sleep standing up, and they can also sleep sitting down. So when they're standing, they're not really having a good deep sleep. They're just having kind of like siestas. They're just sort of shutting off and taking a nap really. When an elephant lays down on its side, that's when you hear the snores coming out. And it really does sound like somebody sawing wood. So they do either or. But elephants, studies have shown that elephants don't need long periods of sleep. They can go days without any rest. But I think on these hotter days, they will take full advantage of the weather and take that moment to just do nothing, unlike these bulls that are now splashing about. But we get to... Oi, hello radio. Just turn that off. But these bulls obviously spend all day, every day doing this. What is quite funny is just what's happening above them, because the little elephants on that slope, just up to the left, the ones that are all sitting down on their bums that we were just watching. Yeah, those ones. They're quite entertaining. The way that they're almost using that steep slope as a slide. Now, from this angle, it doesn't look like there's much of a gradient there, but when you're standing up on top of the dam wall, trust me when I say that I've almost fallen onto my bottom a couple of times trying to come down there. So it is quite steep, and especially when you weigh a few tons and all the weight is in your shoulders, it can be quite tricky. But the sand is nice and soft. You can see it's all being stirred up. The adults doing most of the work though. Yes, lay down. That's just amazing. Look at them. Every single little elephant there is now down on its side. I wonder what they're thinking. It's a good opportunity to use the shade provided by the adults. Whoops, off we go to Tristan.
But I think Tandi's here because Kuchava's body language has changed completely. She's up, she's growling, she's salivating. She's not a happy cat at all. There's the male cub, so is that the male cub? Or is that Tandi? Looks like Tandi. That's Tandi and Kuchava side by side. It's not the male cub. No wonder he ran. I was wondering what was going on. But there they go. They're fighting each other. I'm going to try and keep up with them. Oh no, guys. Not good. But luckily the cub is not here. He's run an opposite direction. I don't know where they've gone, these two. I'm going to try and keep up. It's very difficult in here. Her whole body language just changed immediately. She started salivating, growling, and now they're running. I don't know where they've gone. Last direction I saw them was this way. Normally they don't run far, they run a little bit and then they start growling.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm sure we'll get Tristan back in no time. I'm so glad that he's got to spend this time with Kuchava and that you've got to spend this time with Kuchava too. And her cub. It's been so long since we've seen that little man. It'll just be awesome. We're still here at the dam, at Treehouse Dam, because there's been such beautiful bird life. Really, really beautiful stuff. So sometimes it really pays off to sit at the dam for a little while in a nice patch of shade and just watch what comes down. We know that there was an elephant close by. We know that there's great birding. So we're going to yet again put on our patience pants and sit at the dam. I would love to see what else comes down to drink. I've always wanted to see mongoose come down to drink. I almost saw it once. But then it saw us. That ow, ow you're hearing in the background is a herd of impala with a few youngsters close by. They may also come down to drink. And this sounds lovely as well. And it was really, really nice to see that European bee eater. It's the first one I think I've put on camera. I'm not sure if anyone else has. And they were just putting on a spectacular show. So hopefully they'll return.
And I think what we are going to do is just take a moment once again to enjoy the wonderful sounds of the elephants and all the other birds that fly on by. What an awesome time. Especially with those buffalo weavers chirping, there's blueberries in the distance. What an awesome moment here at Indlovu Dam, where the elephants will just keep on coming for the rest of the day.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back to everybody. And look at this magnificent animal that we have just come across. You can't know everything, and that's the beautiful thing about being in the bush and being a field guide, is that it will never be a time that you would know everything. So if anybody has any idea who this could be, let us know. Drop us a comment, #WildEarth, or just at FC. Very beautiful caterpillar. We actually stopped to look at a beautiful plant, and we came across this fantastic and very lovely looking caterpillar. You right there, Owen? Sorry for the movement, folks. There we go. Wow, all right, we're going to send you over to Tristan very quickly. We'll see you when you get back this side.
Well, the fight continues. We've managed to find them again. So you've got Tundi on the left and Kuchava on the... So Kuchava's the one you're looking at now, and then Tundi's lying in the shade here. It seems like Kuchava's being the more aggressive of the two, and they're just lying apart from each other now, just growling and hissing and carrying on as leopards do. And this will be just a territorial dispute between mom and daughter. And so this is a perfect example. We talk about it regularly, that once they sever that bond as mother-daughter, it then becomes competition. You no longer are friendly anymore, and so they're chasing each other up and down, they're growling, they're salivating, and this is all a protection of their areas. And it's vitally important for both these females to do this, because both of them have offspring. They're very similar ages. There's a little bit of a gap with Kuchava's being slightly older, but they need to protect their territories because a female like this can potentially be a threat to their offspring, and they are vying for competition with food, water, everything else. And so this is something that they need to sort out, and it's been a long time coming. I've been saying it for weeks now, that there is going to be a fight between these leopards, because Sibui, Tundi and Kuchava are overlapping way too much on Chitwa at the moment, and at some point they were going to bump into each other. Luckily, the little cub got away and didn't get attacked by Tundi, because she would have attacked him if she had found him on his own. And luckily, Kuchava spotted her before the cub spotted her, and she got up and kind of met Tundi head on. But it's been fascinating to see how she's kind of dominating Tundi a little bit. You would expect it to be the other way around with a bit of experience, but Kuchava being slightly bigger than what Tundi is, and bulkier, and she's being the far more aggressive of the two leopards. Now, I know it's not a great view of either of them, but you'll see what happens with this is that they lie like this, and they growl and they hiss and they go, and then all of a sudden it reaches a crescendo, and then they go at each other again. And then from there, it breaks apart, and then together, breaks apart together. It's a fascinating thing to watch. I've seen it a lot with males, particularly, but when the females do it, it's pretty interesting to see how they go about it. That's for sure. Here comes Kuchava. She's coming back around. She's just put herself in the shade. I think she was in the sun, shame. It's very, very hot all of a sudden. The temperatures, I would reckon, are in the upper sort of 30s. If it wasn't for this little breeze, we'd be burning pretty badly out here at this stage. But you see how much salivation is happening there. You see that saliva dripping from the mouth. That's an indication, as soon as you see that in a leopard, that generally there's another leopard around, and that you need to be really, really kind of vigilant as to what's going on, because at some point there's going to be a clash between them. You don't see leopards salivating like that unless they're going through a really spike in their emotions. Then they and particularly when they're angry is when they start to salivate like this. If they're salivating like that and it's not the case, then there's a major problem, and in all likelihood that leopard has got some sort of illness. Standoff time. I'm very intrigued by Tundi's behavior. She's being way more submissive than Kuchava. You see Kuchava's body language is up and head held high, whereas if you look at Tundi, she's down at the moment. She's completely flat. She's trying to hide herself more than she's trying to expose herself. And that's two very different kind of ways of sitting. You know, Tundi's now just popped up her head again, but she was lower, and that's more a submissive maneuver than an aggressive maneuver between the two of them. Jacqueline, would she kill the cub? Possibly. That cub is quite big now, so he would be quite a ferocious battle between a female and him. So I think more than likely she would just chase him and leave him, but you never know. There's always that element of danger when it comes to leopards. You can never be kind of too certain what the outcome will be, but I suspect that you're going to find that she would be a little bit intimidated by his size and would chase him and be aggressive towards him, and as soon as he started running, she would kind of leave him alone. Whereas with Kuchava, it's different. She sees Tundi as a threat, and she's going to come and meet that head on, and she's going to try and make herself as big as possible and turn her body. And you'll see a lot of lateral presenting in these guys in order to try and intimidate one another with their size. So they use their side of their body almost to show how big they are with these guttural growls and salivations that you see. Amazing interaction, though, between them. This is one of those things that you very, 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 very seldom see. It does happen, obviously, and it can happen all over the place. But these moments are not common. We know because we spend an abnormal amount of time with these cats. And so, how many times have we had them fighting? I know we've had Shadow and Tundi fight once or twice. We've had a sighting with these two together before. So, there's been one or two kind of altercations, but it's really few and far between in comparison to the number of sightings that we've had. There's going to be a hiatus now. But listen to the growling every now and then. Luke, tricky because it's on the border at the moment. So you've got Kuchava kind of to the south, Tundi to the north, and there's been a lot of overlap here. And because Kuchava was one of Tundi's cubs, a portion of Tundi's territory, or where Tundi used to be, has kind of been given to her, and Tundi moved quite heavily away from where Kuchava, where she used to be, to give space to Kuchava. So where we are now is a bit of a grey area. I mean, that's what this is. This is a defining of those boundaries between these two cats. I suspect what we're going to find is that Kuchava is going to be the one that's going to probably push Tundi north, and you'll find Tundi's going to spend less time now coming down into Cheetah, if she gets the better of Tundi. If it's the other way around, then Kuchava is going to push more south. But I, just from the body language of these two cats, suspect that this altercation at the moment is being dominated more by Kuchava than it is by Tundi. You're finding that Kuchava's got the sort of brasher body language. She's the one that's sitting head held high, kind of watching Tundi, whereas Tundi keeps dropping her head, just watching in the grass, being a lot more kind of submissive in her body posture. And when we saw the two of them running down the road, it was definitely Tundi running and Kuchava kind of slightly quartering behind her, almost sort of herding her away from where this originally kind of took place. What an incredible interaction, and from nowhere as well. I mean, we were having because I found it very strange. I thought it was maybe just that Kuchava's son hadn't spent enough time with our vehicles, and that's why he bolted like that. And he was just nervous of the fact that we were, kind of this new car, and our vehicles looked different. So I thought maybe that was what, but it wasn't. It must have been Tundi, because I saw him run and then I thought it was him lying down, and then Kuchava's reaction immediately was different, and she started growling, and then you know straight away that a leopard's seen another leopard. And so pretty crazy thing to witness. It's gone quiet now for a bit. I think because of how hot it is, these two are just kind of trying to cool down more than trying to fight with one another as well. AC, I mean, they probably, if they smelt each other's urine, they would pick up the fact that they kind of know each other, but the bond has been severed. They now see each other as competition. Whether or not they recognize each other is not really a valid point anymore, because even if they do recognize each other, they are still competition for food, water, den sites, mating rights, and as well as dangerous to each other's cubs. And that's why you're going to see the two of them are going to be quite aggressive towards one another. They're not going to tolerate each other at all. I'm going to find that they're going to try and kind of push each other away and make it much safer for their own cubs, as well as the resources that they need to utilize. So even if they do recognize each other, that doesn't matter. It's off the table now. It's no longer, like I say, a valid point for them to worry about. Mother-daughter having a fight, and this is what happens in the leopard world, is territories have to be established at some point, and it's the most dangerous part of a leopard's life, because not only do you have the issues that you've got with cubs, but you've also got injuries that can take place to one another, because if they feel like they are both very evenly matched, they will be aggressive towards each other in terms of actually fighting, and that's when claws and teeth come out, and there can be badly injured legs, and obviously when that happens, a leopard being a loner, it becomes quite difficult for them. So these are one of the toughest things for leopards to deal with. Things like hyenas and lions, they have the ability to get themselves out of those problems once they reach a certain age by being able to get up into trees and generally trying to find a way away from them. But other leopards are just as mobile as they are, can do everything that they can, and that's what makes it quite difficult for them to settle these arguments. What I'm hoping, though, is that one of them will be submissive, the other one will be kind of more aggressive. They'll start to realize the one will move off, the other one will go away, and they'll both go back to their cubs in order to just settle down. And you might find that both are going to move cubs in opposite directions now. So we might find that Tundi might move her little one, because the tracks for her little one were also coming south towards this boundary, and you might find that they start to push a little bit further to the north and or back towards Zuma even. But the problem there is that Tundi's then got her other daughter, Klalamba. And this is the problem with being a successful mother, particularly if you have a lot of females, is that your territory gets smaller and smaller as these females get bigger and bigger, because of the fact that they're in their prime. Now look, you see she's standing up. She's just watching Tundi. Here we go. Now watch the lateral posturing if she comes out of that bush. And listen to the growls. Unfortunately, it's quite windy today, so it doesn't seem like we can hear too well. I think the problem is also how hot it is. Both of them, when they walk into the sun, and I can tell you because we're sitting in the sun, it is beating down this morning. I think they both move into the sun and it's just like, nope, too hot. Going to just sit both of us in our own little bush and watch each other and growl and hiss and carry on until such time as one decides to move, and then you find the other one will try and enforce its way and try and establish more dominance over the other one. Then eventually it will settle down after a while. But this could take all day. I mean, it could be you come here in the afternoon and they still boxing with each other. It typically doesn't last that long, but it can. So this is just a patience game, and I'm quite frankly happier with this situation where they're talking at each other and growling and generally sitting far apart than when you see them coming together and in this ball of just fury, claws, teeth, because that's when things can happen and animals can get injured. So I'd rather they sit here like this and shout at each other and basically make an audio and visual show out of it by presenting and growling and hissing than for them to actually physically come into contact with one another. It's something that you don't want to see, and particularly with both these cats, because they're both kind of firm favorites of ours. So we don't want either of them to be injured. We also know that they both have dependents at the moment. So it's better that they establish it a peaceful way rather than an aggressive way. And a lot of you might be thinking, but why don't they be more aggressive? Well, it's quite simply because of the risk of injury. So neither one wants to risk being hurt. And so it's better to try and establish boundaries and have situations where you establish a kind of edging to your territory by being passive rather than aggressive, because both have a lot to lose if they actually engage with one another and hurt each other. It's quite funny, all the growling is coming from Thandi. She's the one that's making all the noise. What I suspect is going to happen, though, is I think Kuchava is going to take this male cub south again. I don't think we're going to see much of her after this. She's going to take that cub much deeper into her territory and not bring him so much to the kind of northern part. All right, well, we'll sit here and we'll wait. Let's see what happens. Maybe the two of them will settle down and they'll leave each other alone. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Carl.
Welcome back. And this little individual has just remained motionless on this little branch. But what a treat it is to see such a beautiful caterpillar. And like I mentioned, if anybody has extensive knowledge on these beautiful creatures and you might know who it is, please let us know. I really think deep down inside it's a form of a moth. I don't know, for some reason my tummy is just leaning towards moth. But a very beautiful species at that, regardless it being moth or butterfly. And distinctive colors, you can see green, and look at those little red spots. So that is a clear indication that that's trying to fool a predator. So it might be to distract the predator, to give it the impression that it has multiple eyes to ward off a predator. But then as well as it could be visual aspect to say, I might be foul tasting. But this little individual will obviously grow in size, and it goes through several molts, or what they refer to as instars, between 4 and 6, and they have to molt or basically change their body. Oh, hello, don't move that way. Change their body coat because of the extensive growth form. And what this animal is doing is just eating and accumulating the material and the stuff it needs in order to go through that beautiful stage or form, metamorphosis. And obviously from Greek terminology, munching away. From Greek it means change in form or form in change. Metamorphosis, to change. Oh, Jojo, that is a horn-tailed... Sorry, FC, you have to go with that again. There was a little bit of a break-up in comms there. A horn-tailed green caterpillar. Thank you very much, Jojo, for your comment. Great that we have so much knowledge across the board. And that's the beautiful thing about safari life, is that we are tapped into so much knowledge across the board. And obviously we have the ability to share. Because remember, knowledge is power. And the more knowledge we have about this beautiful blue planet and the more we can share, the better we create, or the stronger we create an interest in it. And the better then obviously we can protect it. But look at those little mouth parts, obviously designed to chomp away on vegetation. And these mouth parts will be different in the larval stage in comparison to the adult, obviously to eliminate competition. But look how well those mouth parts are working against each other to chomp down on that little piece of foliage. Munch, 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 munch. It's like me after a long day's work. Grazing away. But what a beautiful, beautiful caterpillar. So once it goes through these 4 to 6 molts, it'll then spin a cocoon, and in that cocoon it will physically change its body structure. All body parts basically melting away and then reorganizing the whole body. I mean, that is such a beautiful process, metamorphosis. It is something so elegant and so complex, it doesn't even seem real. Wow. I hope he's not that hungry he starts munching on me. You can see the front little legs are like claws, and you can see towards the back. I don't know if you can see inside there, and he's got like little suckers at the back end. I thought Jojo was joking. I didn't want to say it. Well, it's the green swallow single-horned caterpillar. Unbelievable. But a real pleasure to see this little organism. I'm going to put him back where I found him. And then what initially got us to stop here was the activity of these butterflies. If Owen can punch in there and just give you guys a little view. Look at the activity of these white butterflies fluttering around in the vegetation. I'm just going to put this little guy back over here nice and neatly where I found him. If you look at where these insects lay their eggs, obviously the female would have flown around, and she would have been very, very careful at selecting a certain type of plant, because where this little one hatches, you want to put that little one in the best possible spot in order for it to have its first meal. So when it hatches, it is on a viable food source. Obviously, they do have taste receptors in their mouth, and obviously those big chomping jaws allow them to munch away on vegetation like this. So plant species being very, very specific to a specific species of butterfly or moth. And this is exactly where I found him. So it's actually feeding on the plant that I initially wanted to show you folks. Let me just step out the way so he is safe and sound. Ha la la. Look how they've changed. Okay, oh, we've got a beetle in here now. Hello, Mr. Beetle. Oh, it looks like a form of blister beetle, guys. So it is part of the same family. Can you see it there, Owen? Oh, yeah, here it comes back. So it is from the same family group that we were looking at yesterday, that wild morning glory. And a very beautiful plant. Miramia vercunda. So that's initially what got our attention. That's why we stopped here. We found that beautiful caterpillar. But we're going to appreciate and scratch around and see what else we can unearth and uncover. And we'll send you off for a little bit.
Wild Earth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special Wild Earth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a Wild Earth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
Join us around the fire as we have our very first Wild Earth Explorers Fireside Chat.
And what that means is that if you are an explorer, we're inviting you to come and join us so we can chat about the greatest highlights of 2020.
We will be chatting about our favorite characters and what they have been up to during the course of this year.
And if you would like to join us, head over to our Explorers page and subscribe. Don't miss out. This Fireside Chat will be on the 13th of December at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time, straight after Sunset Safari.
An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. Wild Earth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, Wild Earth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. Wild Earth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be a part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I come to you live every day here from Tswalu, Kalahari in South Africa. My favorite bird has to be the social weaver. The enormous nest that they create, their survival tactics to inhabit these harsh and unforgiving environments, and as well as their complex social arrangements is truly remarkable. And the interconnectedness with the ecosystem shows us that we are too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
Welcome back to and Beyond Pinda, where we've just seen a monitor lizard just to the right of us. Glenn's going to go there now. We can just see the tail and the head just sticking through now. So this is a water monitor. You can see it's very close to this water hole here, and they're quite elusive. They tend to sneak up on their prey. They really enjoy feeding on eggs and insects. We saw it quite close to this bird earlier. It was starting to stalk it and then left it all alone. As you can see, that tail that's just sticking out there, it's very, very long and quite thick, especially at the base. That is their main defense mechanism, and that tail has a nasty whip. Sorry, I heard some other bird sound there. It's got a really nasty whip, and it can even fend off predators such as leopards. If you get to see their claws as well, they've got really, really sharp claws that can scratch and climb. So they can climb up steep banks, up cliff faces. They really, really are incredible little reptiles. Well, not so little, actually. But can you see his head is just sticking up through the grass? Maybe he spotted something. If you look carefully, you might get to see the tongue come out, pick up any scents that are in the air.
Unmute yourself. Mute yourself. I'm going to let wildebeest in the mud.
Look at this wildebeest now. Earlier we were speaking about how wildebeest sometimes use their hooves and scrape the mud up. Look at what this wildebeest is up to now. Look how dirty his face is as well, and those horns are covered in mud. Very, very interesting to see. So often they'll also cover their horns in mud to try and make them look a little bit bigger. You can see the one on the right-hand side, just to the right of that tree, has also got a bit of mud on his horns. Look at them all slowly going down to the water now. Probably going to come and drink quite close to each other if they do drink. If you look at the back there, that female that is right at the back, that's got her bum to us now, she's very, very pregnant. You can see how low that belly is hanging. really, and you can see that main vein that's just running underneath her stomach there. You can see it's really swollen. I'm sure within the next few weeks she will have a young foal with her as well. Oh, Glenn has just spotted a crocodile right to the right of this tree stump here, and I see fish jumping all around him there. He's obviously trying to catch some. Look how dead still it's sitting there. So often they'll go and lie in the shallows with their mouth slightly open, and they know that fish are around, and if something swims into their jaws, they'll quickly shut it, and that'll be the way they catch their fish. Often catfish, sometimes small as tilapia or bream. Those are often the prey species that they feed on in these water holes. It's quite interesting. The crocodile hasn't focused attention on these wildebeest yet. Perhaps he's a little bit too small to try and catch one of those wildebeest. We focus our attention back towards those wildebeest there. You can see they're still quite nervous around the waterhole. They know that this is often where predators at this time of the day might be around. They also know the dangers of the crocodiles that are lurking around here. Bernard, that's a good question. So a big wildebeest won't get older than about 20 years old, especially in the wild. Obviously in captivity they tend to live a little bit longer, but as they get older, wildebeest will obviously lag behind and not be able to keep up, and the predators will eventually take them out before getting to those extreme ages like they can maybe get to in captivity. Look at that one lying down now. He's found a nice little patch of sand. He's going to roll around in it. So Julia's asked if they use the mud as sunscreen, similar to the way buffalo do and hippos and rhinos. So not as much. They will as well roll in the sand and the mud to use it as a parasite remover. They will sometimes use it as a sun cream if it's a really, really hot day, but it's less likely that they do. They don't have the same thick skin as a rhino or an elephant, so they don't need to protect it as much. Yeah, they'll use it more as the sand and the mud as a parasite remover. Like I was saying, you saw that wildebeest now just rolling in the sand, scratching his back a little bit.
I'm going for the Nyala now, right?
There's a beautiful big Inyala bull that's just approaching the waterhole now from our right-hand side. Look how cautiously he came down that steep bank. His mane, that white mane of his, just raised beautifully there. So we're going to stick here for a little while and see what Kay's out here. But I heard Tristan's leopards are back at it. So enjoy that.
Well, as you can see, it's gone to a kind of hiatus at this stage. I mean, not that there was too much frenzy of activity, but Tundi's lost interest completely. She's just flopped onto her side, and she's seen this all before and done this all before. She's not seemingly as worried as Kuchava. Kuchava keeps standing up and sitting, and kind of being a lot more alert. And I suppose there's a very good reason for that. Ultimately, when this all happened, her cub was with her. So she's going to be a lot more stressed out than what Tundi is. Tundi's on, she knows her cub's not here. She doesn't have to be nearly as kind of worried about what's going on than what Kuchava does. And so you've got kind of two varying views of what's going on. Also, just so much more experience from Tundi that she knows that in this situation she can just lie there. Eventually maybe Kuchava will get disinterested and move off. I don't know where the cub went. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering which way he went. It was weird because where he ran, he went under a bush, and I saw him kind of sitting at that bush. And then a car moved and left, and I was watching kind of, and I saw him, and then the next time I looked, it wasn't him, it was Tundi. So I don't know if he saw her and disappeared while we were watching Kuchava. I don't know. It was kind of just a weird swap over of leopards. And because of his size, it was, it immediately didn't kind of catch your eye that there's a different leopard in the sighting until you saw the kind of reactions from Kuchava. So, Safari Detective, how old is too old for these kind of things? Never really too old. Leopards are always going to be in competition with one another, so you'll find them even when they're no longer breeding female, if they make it that long. They still do compete with one another, but the skirmishes get less and less the older they get. I normally find, though, that when they're not having cubs anymore, they tend to be a lot more kind of settled and not as aggressive about their territorial behavior. When there's cubs to protect, and as we know, both of these have pretty similar age cubs, there's a lot to lose, and so they're going to be aggressive at this age. Still, even though she's 14 years, she's going to be like that until such time as she doesn't really have cubs. Then she can be a lot more defensive and kind of move off and give way to these younger females. But for now, she needs to be brave and kind of hold her ground for the safety of her own cub. It's a crazy thing to think that this is just one big family that's feuding at the moment. And this is not going to be the only feud that Tundi's going to face, because Tlalamba is pushing seriously hard as well. How this all played out is actually quite an interesting story. As we started out with Tlalamba's tracks, funny enough. And I'm going to show you a map while these guys are sleeping to give you an idea of what actually happened this morning and how far this has all kind of brought us. But essentially, we started out, this is basically Buffelshoek, Zuma, Torchwood, and we started out here, all right, at Gallagher is kind of where our camp is. And the tracks as we got going for game drive this morning, I found her tracks, Tlalamba's tracks, going past our rooms and heading up. She eventually came out onto Gallagher Shortcut. She went like this, up Hunters Road, up this way like this, and then she came all the way down to Dollarite, in here, down and across Pipe Road. So we were following up with her tracks here, and one of the guys was on this road, so I decided to go a little bit further south and picked up what was Tundi's tracks moving this way and then south, and then she came like this all the way down, and we came down, and eventually, can you hear the elephants? We ended up here on Chitwa, and we're basically on the main road at the moment, so the divide between the two is what's kind of taking place at this stage. But in fact, this is exactly where we are. Here's the new entrance over there. So we kind of in this area, but it just goes to show you how far Tlalamba is pushing at the moment. If you think she's covered this entire kind of area and she's pushing down into where Tundi is, and if you start looking at the sizes of territories, if you look where Tundi is now being pushed into, she's being pushed into just this little small thing over here, with Tlalamba doing all of this in Sele up here, and if I just hold on, flip this over, this is kind of the Cheetah Plains, Chitwa, this is all Kuchava, kind of this area over here. So it's really kind of means that Tundi's being squished more and more and more into a smaller and smaller area. All right, so we're going to stay with them. We'll see what happens. Hopefully these two ladies will decide to do something at some point, now that there's some Ellies around. In the meantime, though, I think we're sending you across to Trishala.
Such exciting stuff. Here on quarantine, we're in Western quarantine, quite close to where we had Tingana last night, and there's lots and lots of activity. Wildebeest, impala, there's a sudden ground hornbill, and there were some baboons all jumping about. Nice to see them all spending their time and sharing the same area. I was hoping they'd interact, but they're still staying within their little groups. Well, Tristan was showing you a bit of a map and showing you where Tlalamba might take over. And yesterday when I had Tingana, some of you were not sure exactly where it was because I used the word Western Quarantine. Western Quarantine is actually the name of a road. So it's not just the west of Quarantine. There's a road that's named Western Quarantine, and Tingana was on there. I know that a lot of you like to know the specific areas where we have those animals, so you can keep tabs on them and know about their movements. And also for the dam cam, you'll be able to predict where they're going to be. So if you didn't know that's the name of a road, then now you do. There's a baboon just to our right that has something in its mouth that looks like an animal. I can't see what it is. It's really difficult in the blazing sun to pick up on a lot of things that you guys might be able to see better. Oh, where'd it go? I'm just going to reverse a little bit. It looked like something like... It was definitely an animal. It was swinging like a dead animal. There's one there, sitting in the grass, but now he's not walking. Oh no, there's the one with the thing in its mouth. I almost want to say it looks like a scrub hare. Or it could be a dead baby, but that is a very, very tiny. With the sun on the screen, I can't see, guys. So if you can see what that is, let me know. That's a scrub hare. Oh my goodness. Now, they are known to eat meat, even though they're mostly herbivorous or frugivores. Their tooth structure and everything about them is mostly omnivorous. It's not surprising to see them eating meat. It's just I've never seen one eat a scrub hare before. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. It was not a big scrub hare either. Wow, there's something so human about the way they eat these things, because we're so used to seeing cats and animals like that, well, mostly cats that have scrub hairs and eat it, and you don't get to see them sit and, hold it with their hand and hold the leg bone like that and eat it. This is such a strange thing for the eyes to see it. It looks so familiar. Jessica, you'd like to know if the baboon would eat the scrub hare because it's lacking nutrients? No, it could also just want to eat the scrub hare because they're omnivorous. And it's not unusual for them to eat a bit of meat. It's not, they won't usually seek it out, or we don't get to catch them seeking it out very often. But they enjoy a bit of meat, and it's not surprising that it's going to eat the scrub here. What's surprising is that we're seeing it. It's not something that we get to see very often. Let me see if I can roll back just to get that tree out of the way. No, I can't, but they're fairly far away. They shouldn't run. There we go. That is a very, very interesting thing. Wow. You can see that this big male is also not sharing. No sharing of the scrub here. Oh, that is exciting. But something more exciting is happening at Tristan's. Let's go and see.
If it couldn't get more complicated, we now have a hyena that's also joined, which has woken up both of our cats. So it's just walked behind Kuchava and kind of walking around towards where Tundi is. I think what it's hearing is these low grumbles, and it thinks probably there's a female and a male leopard, maybe that there's a kill, and it can come and try and pilfer while the leopards are fighting. But it's not the case. I don't know where it's gone now. The last I saw it was coming around towards Tundi, but maybe it saw Tundi and got a bit of a fright when she stood up, because she's now standing and kind of watching. She was flat sleeping just now. All of a sudden she's a lot more alert again, and I think maybe let's see with her standing up whether there's now a renewed vigor in their kind of standoff. It's so far it doesn't look like it. I mean, Kuchava's just sitting, and I think Tundi's going to go back to sleep now as well. I think she just maybe thought there was something else approaching other than a hyena, and once she saw it was a hyena, I think everybody kind of settled down a little bit. But you can see she's gotten herself in there. Where did that hyena go? Maybe it realized there's no food here. Its nose is not going to lie to it. If its nose is to the ground, it will pick up if there's a carcass. So maybe it's just doing a wide loop in the hope that there is something here, but it's not going to get in between the skirmish of these two cats, that's for sure. What I am surprised about is how much bigger Kuchava is. I didn't realize that she was as bulky as she is. She's quite a heavy-set cat in comparison to Tundi. She makes Tundi look a little bit smaller. I don't know if anyone got any kind of shots of them side by side at that initial period. I mean, it was a bit kind of all over the show at that point because we were just trying to kind of figure out what was going on. But she definitely seems a lot bulkier, and it's particularly the head area. She's got that kind of mvula, thick shoulders, big head gene, whereas Tundi looks a lot more kind of petite in size. But that obviously doesn't mean that Tundi can't win this war. We've seen Tundi many times before box way out of her weight category. She's a tough leopard who's got years of experience, and so even though there's a slight size difference here and Kuchava is slightly bulkier, I wouldn't write Tundi off in this exchange. She is not a leopard that is not going to give up easily. She never has been, and has always been one that is not shy to confront others when needs be. And let's not forget that she's approached Kuchava, so she had the option to see Kuchava and back off, and she didn't. So it's pretty interesting to see her kind of behavior as well. All right, I don't know where the hyena went. It's obviously decided discretion is the better part of valor. So let's send you across to Pete and another predator.
Welcome back to and Beyond Pinda, where we have just come across all these crocodile hatchlings. Glenn and I were counting now. We counted about 32 of them, which is unbelievable that they've survived this long. So young crocodiles like this don't have they don't have a big success rate from incubation till fully grown. They've got a lot of predators, from grey herons all the way to other bird species, and even legavans like we just saw, or water monitors. So the mother crocodile, which we can't see now, would have laid between 16 and about 80 eggs. Just above the water level, she would have gone and found a nice sandy patch, dug it quite deep, and laid her eggs individually there. It's amazing with small crocodiles. The incubation determines the sex of the crocodiles. So they are dug in a kind of triangle shape, and anything that is lower than 30 degrees, so any of the eggs that's lower than 30 degrees becomes a female, and anything above 30 degrees turns out to be a male, which I find fascinating. So that's how they balance out which eggs are born to which sex. But it's amazing, they've just found this nice sandy patch here. There's a bit of sun shining right on them. They seem to be enjoying it. The only thing that they're not enjoying right now are the flies. You can see every now and then one's just flicking their tail. I'm sure these little crocodiles are probably going to spend the rest of their day here just sunbathing, and if they get a little bit too hot, they'll probably go into the water. But we're going to carry on now and see what else we can find for the rest of the morning.
Well, sitting and enjoying one of the most iconic sounds throughout Africa, and the sound made by a cicada, I thought we would just sit and share this with you folks. So a continuous shrill, sometimes actually ear-piercing. Some species of cicada have been clocked at about 107 decibels. And that's fairly loud by a tiny little insect that's only ranging about 5 centimeters in length. And just look how well camouflaged it is within this vegetation.
Both leopards stood up briefly and then looked at each other, growled, and lay back down again. So I don't know. I think both want to leave, but neither wants to make the first move and show weakness and kind of trot off. But I think Kuchava really wants to go back to where her cub was and just go check what's happening there. She's the one that keeps getting up first and moving, and then Tundi responds and stands up, and then they look at each other, shout, and then sit back down again. So I don't know how long this is going to last for. I think it's going to be a pretty much an all-day thing at this stage. We'll have to come back this afternoon to try see how this played out. Maybe you'll eventually get to a point where one of them will just decide this is ridiculous, the sun will hit them, and they'll start to kind of move off in separate directions. But for now, they're all pretty much sleeping. I mean, you can't even see Tundi anymore. She's behind that bush. She went and lay in there. So she's flat behind there, and then Kuchava is now sleeping on our side as well. So it's going to be one of those days where it's just going to have to kind of solve itself. And like I say, we'll come back later and try and figure out what actually happened. It's a pity it's on this road because the tracks are going to get obliterated by cars throughout the day, unfortunately. Anyway, it is that time of the day where we need to say goodbye to all of you. Hopefully you've had a wonderful morning and enjoyed all the sights and sounds of the African wilderness. It's obviously been a bit of a tense one to finish, and hopefully this afternoon it will be all resolved. Anyway, from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hope that you have a wonderful day or evening, and we'll see you all on our sunset safari.
Live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a very, very warm and sunny Sabi Sands. We've got